Hello, my name is Valentina Vee, and welcome to the Adobe Premiere Pro workshop. For the next 3 or so hours, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about Premiere Pro from the very beginning. This is also going to be useful for those of you coming from a different editing software wanting to learn more about Premiere Pro. If you're someone who has watched one of my previous workshops and you want to know what's new in the software, I'm very excited to share that this is the most updated version. You can jump directly to those sections because I've outlined them via timestamps here. I've done a couple home improvement projects in my home and I've taken footage of it so that we could create 2 videos. The first being more of a vlog style video with a bunch of clips just put together to music, and the second one is a little bit more complicated. We have an interview style video with 2 different angles, B-roll on top of everything, slow motion, color correction, graphics, and sound effects. I'm providing all of the assets for this project so you can follow along with me using the exact clips that I am using. I've also made a PDF with all the information you need. It's written in plain language, it's written by me, and you can always refer back to it if you need a little bit of help or to remember a certain shortcut or phrase. I know that learning a new software can be scary sometimes, but I hope that my approach helps you because I don't just explain, I show. Let's get started. A good foundation starts with file organization. Here on my external drive, you can see that every video I make starts with a main folder, and I name them by having the year, month, day, underscore, and what it is. And each one, when you click into it, has subfolders. You can see here, footage, audio, graphics, music, photos, documents, Premiere, AE, After Effects, and exports. The way I make sure the subfolders are always the same is I have this little demo folder on all of my hard drives. And inside there, I have that exact file organization. So every time I make a video and I need a place to put the footage, I'll take this folder, I will copy paste it, and I will rename it. So 2025-0601 underscore Premiere demo. There we go. And now double click and all the footage is in there. For this project, you're not getting all the folders, you're getting the first 2, footage and audio. Why? Because all the other ones are empty. The footage folder, we have the video name, the camera name, so A cam, B cam, etc., and then the number of the clip. You can see here later, we get into B cam and those numbers here as well. In the audio folder, we just have 2 audio files. Now let's open Premiere Pro. When you open Premiere, this is what you'll see on the welcome screen. Welcome to Premiere Pro, your name, a picture of me. It might actually change by the time you're watching this. And then all of your recent projects. If you're brand new to Premiere, you won't have any recent projects here. You can ignore pretty much everything except for new project. That is the button that we want to hit to create a new project. This window is where you name your project and select where it lives on your hard drive. That way, every time you come back to it and you want to open the project, you know exactly where to find it. For project name, I like putting the date and being super organized, 2025-0430 underscore ceiling lights. And then here in location, that's where you will select where it lives on your computer. So choose location. If you used my same file organization, you should see that there's actually a Premiere folder. That is what you're going to select because not only does your Premiere Pro document live in there, but also any autosaves that Premiere creates are going to live in there. That folder, save, there it is. And then for template, we're just going to do none. Now, if we just click create, it's going to take us to Premiere Pro's import mode. And of course, I'm going to show you what that is. I'm going to click create. Okay, now I'm in import mode. Here along the left, I'll find where my footage lives. So it lives on this hard drive, in Ceiling Project, Footage, and it all should populate here. What's great about import mode is it can get you started on creating a project before you're even into the editing software. So you can even preview what the clips are by hovering your mouse over them left to right. This is called hover scrubbing. You can select them by clicking on them. You can see here the little check mark. You can select multiple ones by holding down Shift and clicking the last one that you want to select. You can see as I clicked on them, they added themselves all in a row over here. So it's like the software is already building the project before you even get into it. Here on the right, you can also do a few other things, like you can organize media, so you can add it to a folder. You can create a new sequence. We haven't even talked about what a sequence is yet. You can also analyze the clips so that later you can search within them. And when you click import, you can see your clips are here, your timeline's here, but what are even these things? Let's do everything from scratch and skip import mode. We're back, we click new project. Here we're gonna write 2025 0430 underscore ceiling lights. No templates, and we're gonna click skip import mode and click create. Okay, here we are inside Premiere Pro. We have no clips in here yet, which is great. Here at the top left, we have our 3 different modes. We have import mode, edit, and export. If you wanted to go back to import mode, you could just click import when you're back in import mode. But we're gonna live in the edit tab for the majority of this entire tutorial. You can also see we have all these windows here, and they're highlighted in blue once we click on them. The 4 main windows of Premiere Pro are going to be your project window, your source window, your timeline window, and your program window. What do they all do? The project window is where all of your clips are. Think of this as your file explorer or your finder within Premiere Pro. You can create folders in here. You can put those clips in folders. You can do all of your organizing inside the project window, and the types of folders and the type of organization that you create here will not have an impact on the folders and the organization that's on your hard drive, on your computer. The source window is where you preview all of your clips, so you can view them before you put them into your project. And the timeline window is where all of the clips are glued together, one after the other in a sequence. And then in the program window is where you preview that sequence, aka your final project. So it makes sense. In the source window, you preview your clips, and in the program window, you preview your sequence. This is a new update in Premiere Pro 2025, the Properties panel. This panel will help you adjust different properties of the clips as you click on them. You can also adjust audio in here. You can adjust graphics in here. We'll get into that a little later. The tool panel is going to be your best friend. This is how you choose how to manipulate the clips. The main tool you're going to be working with is called the selection tool. It's this top left one. And when you hover over it, you can actually see the keyboard shortcut that is linked to that tool. So let's say I'm on some other tool and I want to go back to the selection tool. I just press V and I'm back on the selection tool. Let's say I'm on the type tool, I press V, I'm back on the selection tool. So V is the first shortcut that you're going to need to learn because you're going to be using it a lot. And then over here, that is your decibel scale. It tells you how loud your video is going to be. I don't know about you, but personally, I don't like to rely on my ears to tell me how loud things are. This will visually show you. So you want your video to land kind of at this -12 decibel, between -12 and -18. This is the sweet spot right here. So you'll be able to see if your video is too loud, peaking over here, or if it's too quiet. There are a couple different ways to import clips, meaning bring clips into the project. You can click Import Media, and that'll bring up your Finder or File Explorer, and then you can find that footage here. You can bring them in, obviously, one by one, but you can also, and by the way, I did Command Z in order to get back and undo. You can select the first one. You can hold down Shift, select the last one. That selects all of them, and you can say open, and now they're all populated in here. You can also Command Z. My favorite way of doing it is simply just bringing them in on a folder level. So here I'll bring in both footage and audio folders, drop them directly into Premiere, and it already creates bins for me. Folders, bins, same thing. I like putting numbers in front of my folders because otherwise, if I didn't have numbers, I wouldn't be able to do this. Click name and they're alphabetized. I can create some more bins too. If I go down here to new bin, I can call it 03 music. I can do 04 sequences, maybe 05 graphics. And you can see the files here in the footage folder, they are already populating, as well as in the audio folder. I have my audio files. If I double click the footage folder, it pulls it up in a separate little tab, and I still have the main project folder in this tab, so I can go back between them. Now, one great thing about Premiere Pro is that these borders are not rigid. If you hover your mouse over the border between two windows, you can make them smaller and larger to fit your needs. You can also go over here to the hamburger menu, the 3 lines, and you can close the panel. You can undock the panel, so now the panel's floating in space, or you can bring it back in wherever you want to. Now, let's say we got a little wild here and we decided to, experiment. And now everything is messed up. We don't know where anything is and we can't get back to where we started. Well, have no fear because there's a default window configuration you can go back to. Just go to Window, Workspaces, Editing, because that's the workspace we're working in, and go to Reset to Saved Layout. Bam, we're back at it again. These workspaces can also be found up here in this Workspaces button. Each workspace is essentially a way of organizing windows. So you can do the Captions workspace, and the Captions workspace pulls up your text window and your sound window. You can go to the effects workspace, and that pulls up the effects panel. I just exclusively live in the editing workspace, and if I need to pull up a different panel of some sort, I go to Window, I find that panel, and I pull it up. Like, for example, the Learn panel, which you can see just popped up here, and you have all sorts of other tutorials that you can take. A lot of them are ones that I've shot. I'm going to close that Learn panel. So let's take a look at this footage bin and see what we've got. We've got a long list of clips, and we have information about each clip, such as the frame rate, the media start, the media end, the duration, and there's even more if you take this line here and move it to the right. If you didn't want to scroll to see all this stuff, and you didn't want to keep expanding this panel and then contracting it, you can use the tilde key, which is the squiggly line on the top left of your keyboard, to hover over the panel and expand it so you can see all that information. Now, for our purposes, we don't need all this, but we do need some of it. Take a look at what changes throughout these clips. We have this thing called frame rate, which changes. Some of them are this frame rate, 23.976, and then some of them are this frame rate, 59.94. Other useful information is here in the video info column, because some of the clips are 3840 by 2160, some of them 1920 by 1080. That might be useful later. So let's take the video info column and drag it right next to the frame rate column. So we have all that information at our fingertips. And when we press tilde again, and this contracts, that will be what we see, the frame rate and the video info. There's also multiple ways of seeing your clips in these bins. Right now, we are in list view, which lists them out. But if you want to see them as thumbnails, just go to icon view, and you can now see them as thumbnails, you can hover scrub over them left to right to see what's in there. If you wanted to make it larger, you can go here to this size wheel and make them larger. So now it's easier to see. And if you wanted to pull them up in your source window, just double click. And now you can use this blue mark, which is called the current time indicator or the playhead, to move among the clip and see what is inside that clip. If your clips aren't organized alphabetically, you can go down here and organize them by name. Let's go back to our main project folder here and go to the sequences subfolder that we created. Right now, there's nothing in it. Let's create a sequence. We'll go down here to the new item indicator, which is this page turn icon. Click it and click sequence, us creating a new sequence. You can also go to File, New Sequence, and you can see the shortcut for new sequence is Control N. But I like just clicking on the actual bin, because then the new sequence will go directly in that bin, going to the page turn and clicking sequence. You're going to get this window. There's a lot of stuff in this window that you don't have to worry about because we know that we're creating a YouTube video. And this is the preset that is the best for YouTube videos. It's here in the drop-down menu under Available Presets. It's HD 1080p 23.976. How do we double check that that is the case? We can go to the Settings tab and it shows us that our time base is 23.976. Our frame size is horizontally 1920, vertically 1080. That also happens to be the frame size and frame rate of our clips. So we know that our sequence is going to match our clips. Don't worry about any of this stuff. Just go down to the bottom and give it a sequence name. And I like doing things alphabetically and numbered. So I'm going to say 01 string out. A string out is just all of your clips put together in a row. And we're going to say, okay, it's created a sequence here for us. There's nothing in the sequence. Therefore, our program monitor is black, but you can see there's a tab that's open. When we have multiple sequences, we will have multiple tabs and be able to switch between them. You can also see Premiere has added that sequence to our sequences bin, and it has a special little graphic next to it. That is what a sequence looks like in Premiere. The frame rate value literally tells us how many photos per second is this video recorded in or displaying, meaning here it is 24, let's just say 24, even though it says 23.976 photos per second. If this were a flip book and you were flipping through the flip book, it would be 24 pages of the flip book that you get through in 1 second. And there's an easy way to test this. I'll double click on the very first clip, and here the time indicator, I can move it back and forth. As I move it, the number on the left indicates what point in the clip I'm at. Like for example, right now, I'm at 15 seconds into the clip and 10 frames. And then the number on the right indicates how long the entire clip is. So the entire clip is 1 minute and 39 seconds and 8 frames. If I take this time indicator all the way to the left, I can scoot it frame by frame. And if I scoot it 24 frames, you'll see that this number changes to 1. Let's do it. I'm going to press the right arrow on my keyboard 24 times. Count it with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're at 1 second of footage. Later in the project, you'll see some clips that are 60 frames per second. Well, technically 59.94. But if I open that up and I do the same exact experiment where I click right 24 times, it will not get to 1 second. Check it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, look at that. I have to go all the way to 60 frames in order to get 1 second of footage. The frame rate of your sequence doesn't necessarily have to match the frame rate of your footage, but for best practices, make sure that the frame rate of your sequence is matching to the lowest frame rate of your footage. And if you want to just make sure that your sequence is correct, you can go up here to Sequence Settings, and see those settings again. Here, time base 23.976. That is the lowest frame rate of any of the clips we have, so that's perfect. And our frame size is the smallest frame size of any of the clips we have, which is also what you want. Frame size refers to how many pixels are in the image. Any image that you look at, even a photo, is made of dots of color called pixels. And these numbers, 1920 and 1080, literally indicate how many dots of color are across the top of the image and the side of the image. 1920 dots of color versus 1080 dots of color. So it's like 1920 by 1080 makes the surface area of the image that you're looking at. That number, 1920 by 1080, is a very standard size of video. It's what you mostly see on YouTube, and it's what we call HD. When we talk about 4K, we're talking about a size like this, 3840 by 2160. Because each side is double the size of an HD image, so across the top is 3840 and down the side is 2160, it's technically 4 times the size of an HD image. We'll dip into working with 4K footage a little bit later, but for this first project, all of our clips are 1080 and our sequence is also 1080. All of our clips are 23.976 frames per second, and our sequence is also that same time base. Right now, all of our clips are this cyan color, and I want to differentiate them a little bit. So I'm going to select the first lights clip, go down to the last one while pressing down Shift, select it, and now I've selected all of them. Right click, go to Label, and I'm going to choose a different color. So let's say, for example, violet. And now you can see all of the clips from the first project are labeled violet. Now I'm going to go down to the molding project, and I'm going to make sure that all of the A cam clips are, let's leave them in the blue family, but the B cam clips here at the bottom, let's right click, label, and make them magenta. Now, the A cam clips, let's also organize them a little bit by frame rate. So I'm going to select the word frame rate. It's going to organize everything by what the frame rate is, and it's going to put all of the clips that are 23.976 at the top and all of the clips that are 60 frames per second at the bottom. So I can go ahead and select the first 60 frames per second clip, scroll down, holding down Shift, select the last one, that selects everything in between. And because this is still the molding project and A cam and everything, I'll keep it in the blue family, but I will, instead of the iris color, I'll just make them blue. Of course, now everything's out of order, so we click the word name to organize it back to the way it was. Learning to color code before you put your clips into your sequence, huge tip, because it saves you a lot of time later. In order to put clips into the timeline, you can just drag them in, just like that. And now my sequence has a clip and I can preview it here. There's also a time indicator here, just as there is one here, except this one shows you the clip and this one shows you your project. Right now, my project is 1 minute and 39 seconds because I only have one clip in there. If I were to bring a second one in there, my project length has expanded because now it's counting up these two clips together. You can also see now that I've put clips into my project, the properties panel really came to life because it's showing me all the different properties that I can change quickly within each clip. If you're not sure which sequence settings are going to be best for your video and you don't want to mess down here with the new item sequence and choosing all this, even easier, just take your first clip, one of your clips, and drag it onto the new item page turn icon. It will create a sequence that has the exact same settings as your clip and it will put your clip into the sequence. But it puts that sequence into that same bin where your footage was. So I like moving it to the sequence bin just to keep it organized. So I'm going to name it ZZ, because then alphabetically it puts it at the very bottom of the footage bin. And then I could just drag that sequence into the sequence bin and rename it from there. 01 Stringout, meaning all of the clips in the entire project go into this one sequence. Bringing clips one by one into the project takes a little bit of time. So instead of doing that, let's bring the rest of them in all together. I'm going to select lights 3, hold down Shift, scroll down, select the very last lights clip, and then drag them all in here. If you've just opened Premiere Pro, you may not actually be seeing the thumbnails on your sequence. Your tracks might be condensed like this to where you don't see the thumbnails even if you zoom in all the way. So the way to see the thumbnails is hover your mouse between the tracks and expand them. If you still don't see the thumbnails, then it's probably in the settings menu over here in the wrench menu. Click that and make sure show video thumbnails is enabled, because if it's disabled, you don't see them. Just a few simple tips for navigating the timeline. You can zoom in and out at your playhead here by moving these two dots here and here on the bottom bar closer to each other like so. You can move the playhead left to right and you can see that the timeline moves with the playhead, or you can just move the bottom bar left to right. If you want to zoom into or out of the timeline, you can press the plus or minus buttons. You can also just scroll on your mouse while holding down Alt or Option. If you're zoomed in and you want to see the whole timeline without having to go down here and zoom out, you can just press the / key. That'll pop you out to the entire timeline. Instead of using this play button to play and pause, you can just use the spacebar. Laid out the light strip here, you may see me going left to right on the timeline without pressing anything, and that's because I have a special mouse with a horizontal scroll wheel. But if you don't have that, just grab this bottom bar and go left to right. As far as the timeline goes, it's split up into the top and the bottom half. The top half here, this is all video tracks. So right now for the first video, we only have one video track that we're working with, but you can stack them on top of each other. I've had projects with 100 video tracks. On the bottom here, those are the audio tracks. Pretty easy to tell which is which. V stands for video and A stands for audio. And you can also have many, many audio tracks. For this video, we're just working with one video track and one audio track. All right, so we have all of our clips in this one sequence. We don't really need the source window too much anymore because we're mainly just working with this sequence and the program window. So I can sort of rearrange some of these sizes to make it work for us. You can also see that I am playing all the videos back at full resolution. If your computer is having trouble playing them back, this is where you can go and drop down in resolution. It doesn't mean that your final video is going to be at 1/4 quality, but it means that it'll make it easier for the computer to show you your own footage. As I'm moving my playhead, the clip that's underneath my playhead is getting selected, both the video and the audio portion, because they are linked. Also, as I click on the clips themselves, even when the playhead over here is not directly above the clip, it's also selecting the audio and video together. If I wanted to select only one at a time, I can go ahead and deselect linked selection over here, and that way it would only select one at a time. I'm currently using the selection tool, which again, the shortcut is V, to select the clips. I can then move them around. For example, I can move this one here and it stays there. I can move the other two, select both of them by dragging a box around them, and move it behind this one. You'll see that they sort of snap to the natural end points of each clip. It's almost like the clips are magnetized to each other. If I want a little bit more precision and I don't want that magnetic snap, I can deselect this snap in timeline button, or I could press the S key, and now they're not going to just automatically jump to that point. Let's keep snapping selected though. I'm going to put these back. Snap, snap. This video right now, if I were to export it without any cuts, it would be over 29 minutes long. I'm trying to get this to under 5 minutes, maybe under 4. So we need to trim a lot of it out. Let's start with the very first clip. Again, to play it, press the spacebar. Hi, I'm Valentina, and today we will be doing a really fun project here in my living room. You can see that as I play it, it gets pixelated because I have 1/4 resolution on. If I go to full resolution and play it, it won't get as pixelated. We're putting up track lights all over. I'm gonna redo it. Hey, I'm Valentina, and today, I gotta have more. Little tip. I could tell that there were a bunch of false takes in this. Why? Looking at the audio waveform. These little marks right here, that's how loud the audio is. And I could tell I started talking and then that was bad. I started talking again, that was bad. I started talking again, that was bad. Maybe this is the best part of it. Let's see. Hey, I'm Valentina, and today we're doing a really cool project in my living room. I'm going to install track lighting all over all 4 sides of the room, and it's all going to be controlled via a smart assistant. So here are the steps. So I know that this entire first section needs to be cut out. And a lot of beginners will just go to the razor tool right here or press C. They will go over here, cut there, go back to the selection tool, select it, then press delete, which creates a gap. Then select this next clip, move it forward, and now you've gotten rid of the gap. That's valid. I'll show you a better way though. Let's find the next cut point. A smart assistant. Right there. So I want to cut here, and the next cut I also want to probably cut here, and this middle part, get rid of it. So instead of going over here and physically selecting the razor tool, I can always just press C, that creates the razor tool, then press V, that's the selection tool, and maybe press C again to do that next cut over here. Press V to select the one in the middle, delete it, move that over. That's one way to do it. I'm gonna Command Z to undo. Another way to do it to get rid of this middle section is to ripple delete. So you can right click and select ripple delete. And that basically ripples everything from that cut point, from this cut point, backwards. It ripples it all forward. So once again, select it, right click, ripple delete, or you can just use the shortcut for ripple delete, which you'll be using a lot, which is Shift Delete. Because I'm someone who likes to have one hand on her mouse and one hand on the keyboard, I'm actually going to create a better shortcut that I can do with just the one hand. So I'll go over here to Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts, and pull up the keyboard shortcuts menu. This is very handy for if you happen to forget any keyboard shortcuts. For example, ripple, delete. You just type that into the search field and it tells you that Shift Delete is the shortcut for ripple delete, but you can add more than one shortcut. So I'll click right next to the words Shift Delete and I'll do Alt D. And that will add the shortcut Alt-D to the ripple delete command. So now I can either do Shift Delete or Alt-D to get rid of clips and ripple delete them. Let's go to the next logical cut point. First, we are going to clean out the space. As you can see, a lot of the furniture is up against the walls. And so we're gonna push it off the walls a little bit so we have room to maneuver. Then we are gonna do a little bit of painting of... You know what, I talk too much. I wish there was a way to just go faster through all this. You're probably thinking, well, you have fast forward, right? No, this is step forward 1 frame. So this will only take you 1 frame forward. It's the same thing as pressing right on your keyboard. You're probably like, okay, well, what about this button? That must be fast forward. No, that's go to out point, which goes to the very, very end of your project. Not ideal, right? Let's go back to where we were here. The way to fast forward and rewind in Premiere is the JKL keys. And if you're impatient like me, you're going to use them a lot. So J is rewind, K is stop, and L is fast forward. You can even press J twice and that will rewind faster. You can press L twice and that will fast forward faster. Press it 3 times, guess what? It fast forwards even faster. So instead of listening to myself talk, I'm going to use JKL to go a little bit faster. The walls, and we're going to push it off the walls so we have room to maneuver. L, then we are going to do a little bit of painting of L again. The electrical bars that are here on the couch. We're going to measure and mark out exactly where on the ceiling the track is going to go with paint tape. Then we're going to mark out the tracks and we're going to cut the size. Then we're going to install the tracks installer, and lastly we're going to install the lights. So let's start. So I know I have to cut out this last bit right here from where my playhead is to the end of this clip, because that's when I put the clipboard down and I tell my camera operator to cut the camera. Again, I could go C, use the razor tool, and then get rid of it by going back to V, selecting, and then doing, ripple delete. I can click in this gap here, right click, ripple delete, and keep going. Or I could do it an even easier way. Let's go to the next cut point. This living room is really small, but to make it look larger, I installed curtains on tracks. So let's get rid of the millennial pause at the beginning. I want to snap my playhead to this cut point, and I don't know exactly where it is. So to snap it, you just go to the up or down arrows, and that will snap the playhead to the next cut point. Let's zoom out so you can see exactly how that works. So down, 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 snaps the playhead to each cut point. So let me snap to this cut point and find where I actually want to start the clip. This living room. Okay, you can see here in the waveform, visually, I want to start it right here. So I'm going to put my playhead right before where I want to start. And I'm going to just insert and edit, aka cut, right at this blue playhead by pressing Command K, the Command K shortcut. And then I can select this beginning of the clip and ripple delete that. Let's combine our shortcut L and then find the next cut point, Command K. This living room is really small, but to make it look larger, I installed curtains on tracks. So they go all the way to the ceiling up here, and that's also where I will be installing the tracks for the lights. Now, I could just do what a lot of people do and just glue the light strips to the ceiling, but I wanted to have an extra little bit of finesse. So I got these. So these are the backings, the black backings. This is what attaches to the ceiling. And then they have diffusion panels, which are white. So this will help sort of diffuse. So I'm going to put a cut point right here, Command K. And then I want to put another cut here because I want to get rid of this middle portion, right? So Command K, select that middle, and then ripple delete. Let's play through that. For the lights, I got these. Great, but what if there was an easier way? I'm going to undo, Control Z, Control Z. Instead of doing all that, let's go back to only having this one cut point. And I want to add a cut point and delete everything from there to this one. Everything between here and here I want to get rid of. I've already put a cut point here, and I want to combine a couple moves here. I want to add a cut point, and then I want to delete this at the same time using one shortcut. That shortcut is W. W will insert a cut and delete everything up to the next cut point. Watch. I just press W. Keep going. Let's do that again. The little individual diodes. Here at the end, there's a bunch of not talking, and I already know I want to cut that out. So this is my upcoming cut point. I want to put a cut point here and get rid of this little section. So I just press W. And I can already tell there's another millennial pause here. So I'm going to put my playhead before I start talking. And now I want to do the opposite. I want to insert a cut, and I want to get rid of this beginning portion. The shortcut for that is Q. So if I press Q, it will get rid of that little thing and ripple everything behind it. Command K, Q, and W are your three main shortcuts that are going to help you fly through your editing. Combined with the JKL keys for rewind, stop, and fast forward, it's going to go so quickly. But before I get too into the weeds of cutting all this footage up, let's make another version of this sequence and work off of that version instead, retaining this one as is. So let's find the sequence in our project. I know where it is. I know because we made a sequences folder and it's over here. It says Stringout. But let's say I didn't. Let's say I was in the weeds somewhere and I needed to find it. So I just go to the name of the sequence here, Stringout, right click, reveal sequence in project. And it takes me right there. Now I can duplicate it, right click, duplicate, rename it. So I'm going to name it O2 first cut, and then double click. You see how it opened that sequence right next to it? Now there's two tabs. They're exactly the same, but I'm going to be working on the first cut tab. I'm going to go through the entire video, Command K, Q, W, to try to chop it up as tight as I possibly can. You can see at some point I got a little too zoomed in to the image. I'm at 113%. That's not me zooming into the shot. That is just the view that I have of the shot being zoomed. So I can go to fit and resize it. Also, you'll notice that when you scrub, meaning you move your playhead left to right, you hear the audio. In this case, I actually think it is helpful, but if you wanted to turn it off, if it annoys you, you go over here to Preferences, Audio, and make sure to uncheck Play Audio while scrubbing in Source and Program Monitors. Uncheck that, and you no longer have that audio scrubbing. As you're going through, you might want to also save your work. You can see here up at the top, there's this little asterisk next to the name of the project. That means that the project is unsaved. So Command S saves your project and gets rid of the asterisk. Premiere also has an autosave feature, and you can set that to autosave at whatever interval you want. So if you go up here to Edit, Preferences, and Autosave, you see here, automatically save projects every 5 minutes. That means that in your computer, in the Premiere folder, Premiere has made an Adobe Premiere Pro autosave folder. And if you click on it, those are all of the auto-saved versions of your project. So let's say you have a power outage and your project absolutely dies. You can just open it up to 5 minutes ago. I've come upon a section here, if you're following along, it's clip 12, that I can tell I'm screwing in a bunch of screws into the ceiling, and I want to do a rapid montage of all the screws. It would not be very fast if I went to, let's say, the middle of this section and I pressed Q, then went here, Command K, then over here did Q, then over here, Command K, then over here did Q. That takes a really long time to do, but it gives me my desired effect, right? Command K, over here Q, Command K, over here Q, and then the effect is, I can even go faster, you know, W, 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 W. Let's see that effect. Right? It's really nice, but I want it to not take as long as all that. So I'm going to undo it and show you a better way. Undo, undo, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, or Control Z. So instead of doing that, this is actually a great opportunity to use the razor tool. So I'm going to press C, and I'm going to switch over to the razor tool, and I'm going to insert those cuts exactly where I want them. Now you can see here, I want to only have a tiny little bit of the clip, but my mouse keeps snapping to the edge. So I'm going to turn off snapping for now so that I can be a little bit more precise. There we go. Just grab a tiny, tiny bit of footage from each of these moments where I am screwing it into the ceiling so that I could have a rapid fire montage. So I know that I want to retain those slivers, and everything in the middle I want to get rid of. So I'm going to press the first one, hold down Shift, and keep pressing all the ones in the middle so that they are all selected. And then ripple delete. Now let's play it. That's great. Here, the order of things is a little messed up because I have put in the lights in clip number 24, and I am talking about installing the diffusion in clip number 26, but then I'm showing how to click it in clip number 25. So essentially, I need clip number 25 to trade places with clip number 26 in the timeline. And a lot of beginner editors will do the following. They will put clip 26 up here, maybe move the audio down there, then move clip 25 over, then move clip 26 over here, and then do that. That's one way to do it, and switch the order. Let me undo that, show you another way. Another way people do it is they will take all the trailing clips and move them out to give them some room. So they will zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. Take these trailing clips, move them this way, then zoom in, then put this over here, ripple delete, ripple delete. It's another way to do it. Undo, 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 undo. A better way to do what I just did instead of having to zoom out on the timeline is just to select everything after your mouse. So if you go here to the track select forward tool, which is also A, and you just click, it automatically selects everything to the right of your mouse. See, I'll prove it to you. It selected everything that way. So instead of having to zoom in out, just press A, then click. Now you can do that shuffle. But an even better way to do this, I'm going to undo, is just select the clip you want to move, hold down Option and Command at the same time, and then they switch places. Again, hold down Option and Command, drag while selecting Option and Command. Little triangles appear in the top left corner that tell you, oh, you're in the switch mode. You can see here, I've actually cut too much because I start the clip in the middle of a word. I start here. To create kind of like a window. I cut out the words I am going to, and it goes straight to create kind of like a. One thing you could do is press A to select everything after it, then press V, move it a little, and then extend the end of that clip forward. I'm going to create. It's pretty easy to extend or shorten the end of a clip. You just hover over it and then you can do so. Another way to do this is I've noticed that the clip before it has a little bit of silence at the end, right? A little bit of dead air. Next video. To create kind of. That's exactly the amount that I need to extend the clip after it. So instead of, doing this and shortening it and then lengthening this one, which I could do, and it would be like this. The next video. I'm going to create. But that was 2 steps. I could do it even faster. Undo, undo. So instead, I'm going to do the rolling edit tool, which is over here. rolling edit tool, or you could press N, and you could just roll that edit over. Let me show that to you again while zooming out, just so to prove to you that it doesn't affect any of the other clips around. Let me just roll that edit over. See, it doesn't ripple anything. The timing everywhere else remains the same, but I've just rolled that cut point over a little bit while maintaining the same spacing. Another great use of that Command Option shortcut, I want to insert clip 29 before my outro, which is clip 27. So I want to put it right here. Take it, start dragging, Command Option while I'm dragging, and put it here. Oh, my snapping's disabled. You see that? As I dragged it, it actually bifurcated this other clip in half. Why? Because my snapping wasn't turned on. Let me try that again. Right there. Now that snapping's on, boom, it snaps. Well, after a little bit of work, it looks like I have trimmed this video from the first one, which was over 28 minutes, to just 8 minutes. But I think I can do a better job. So I'm going to duplicate this sequence again. I can go again, right-click, duplicate to create that new sequence, second cut, or even faster, right? Instead of doing that, I select it, I hold down Command, and I just drag, and that automatically duplicates the sequence for me. 3-second cut. Double click, and I'm gonna go even more severe this time with this second cut and make this maybe half the length it is now. Again, using Command K, Q, and W. In this case, upon second watch, I'm actually noticing that this cut is kind of rapid. I cut out too much from last time. Look, they all perfectly fit in here, and then I can actually close it. When I was doing all the wiring and electrical for the house, I need the ta-da part of the clip, and I want to bring it in. So I could, you guessed it, press A, select everything after, press V, move it off, then extend this clip and find the ta-da part, right? Ta-da! Great. Then I press W, I ripple delete, and there we go. Ta-da! Or I can bring that ta-da in from the original clip. Now I know that it's clip 3, right? Because I can read it. So I know that I'm looking for somewhere in clip 3 for that ta-da, but where is it, right? It's 1 minute 23 seconds, and at what point do I say the ta-da? So if I just double click on this clip in the timeline, that portion of it will pull up in the source window. You can see the entire duration of the clip is this duration right here. But this portion of the clip is what is highlighted in light gray using the in and out points. So I can go to the out point and I can get that exact time code, copy it, then double click on the clip itself, paste the time code. So now my indicator is exactly where it needs to be for that clip. Now I can just grab the portion of the clip that says ta-da. So I'm going to play, ta-da, and pause. So right before I say the word so, I'm going to go back a few frames and set my out point by pressing O or the mark out, either way. So now it's selected everything from the beginning to that out point. Let's add an in point. Move the play indicator. Ta-da! Right before I say the word ta-da, and that's my in point. So now I can drag just this portion of the clip into my sequence. So I will just drag the clip, and as it drags, it only drags that portion. Obviously, I put it on the second layer. I press A, I move this down like that, snapping, snap it down, snap it down. Takes too long, right? Instead of doing any of that, I put my play indicator right in between the two clips right where I want to insert this little section. And I press insert or the comma button. And it inserts that little section and it ripples everything after it. Ta-da! When I was doing all the... Here's another useful tool. I have this clip on the timeline and it's just a little too fast. It's right between two super long clips and it doesn't feel right. Listen. Inches from the wall. Yeah. Originally these were for... It needs to be just a little bit longer, but I can't use that rolling edit tool N like I did before, because if I roll over the next clip, I cut the next clip off. Look. Outlets. I need those words at the beginning. I need me to say, originally these were for outlets. I could press A, select everything after my mouse, move it over, and then just extend the end of the clip. Or I could just use the ripple edit tool, which is B. There we go. So I have essentially extended this and then rippled everything else after it. Originally these... If you ever forget any of these shortcuts, along with going over here to edit keyboard shortcuts and typing that in, so ripple edit, and it'll show you the ripple edit tool is B, you can just look at the toolbar because a lot of them are hiding beneath other tools. For example, if you hold down on the third tool, there's more tools underneath. Ripple edit tool, rolling edit tool, and a couple other ones that we'll get to later. You'll know which tools have more tools underneath because they have this little triangle in the bottom right corner of the tool. So for example, this has more tools underneath. The rectangle tool has more tools underneath. The hand tool has more tools underneath, but the pen tool does not. Here in this section, I've actually chosen the wrong bit of the clip. If I play the clip through, and let me mute it so that you don't listen to the sawing sound. I'm going to press the M button to mute this track entirely. You see how this clip, I'm not actually sawing in this clip. I'm just looking for the place to saw. So I need to choose a different portion of the clip. And instead of moving it up and then extending it, oh, I can't extend it because it's linked. So unlinking it, then extending it, then finding, aha, this is the section that I actually want. Okay, let me razor tool that, and then let me bring it in. Too much. And then I'm out of sync on the audio. You can see here, I have these errors start popping up. That's too much. So instead of doing that, and also instead of going right click, reveal in project, going into this clip and then trying to find, okay, here's the section that I want. So let me press I, let me press O, and then let me, bring it in with the comma, which is the insert tool, will ripple everything. Okay, maybe not the comma. Maybe instead of the comma, instead of an insert, I'll do an overwrite. So I'll do this overwrite button like this. So it'll go on top of, but it doesn't quite go on top of. So then I have to take this one and then make sure link selection is on, delete it. There's so many ways to replace a section of a clip with another section of the same clip. But the best way is just to slip tool it. So let me go back, because I want to have the same amount of footage. So I want it to start at, 2 minutes, 29 seconds. And I'm reading that off of this scale right here. I want it to end at 2 minutes, 30 seconds. So about a second of footage, but I want just like a different section of it. So I can either go over here and make sure that slip tool is enabled, or I could just press Y. And then as I hold and drag left to right, see what happens here in the program monitor. You can see here on the left is the beginning of the clip. So I'm going to keep dragging it until I see that on the left side, I've started sawing, and the right side is the middle of the sawing. So this shows me exactly where the beginning and end of that portion is. And of course, on the top left and top right, that shows me the last frame of the previous clip and the first frame of the next clip. So I press V to go back to the selection tool. I press up to go to the front of that clip and then play it by pressing the spacebar. That's good. That's the correct section of the clip that I wanted. And I'm going to unmute the track so I can listen to it again. Now comes the easy. With surgical precision, I was able to cut this down to 3 minutes and 30 seconds. You can see right here. But I think it needs a little bit more work, specifically on the audio side of things. So, you guessed it, right-click, Reveal Sequence in Project, hold down Command while dragging to duplicate that, and this is going to be 04 Audio Edit, and then double-click. You can see how we went from 28 minutes to 8 minutes to 3 minutes and 30 seconds, and now we're working on the audio. There were a bunch of times in this where I would do a run-on sentence, and I'm only using the second half of that run-on sentence. So the actual cut is jarring. Let me show you. So I'm gonna create in the actual video, if I double-click this and pull up the exact clip, move my playhead a little earlier so I can show it to you. But I'm just mounting it straight to the wall. So I'm gonna create some... The first thing I wanna do is make it easier for me to constantly play this cut back so that I can smooth it out and not have to always put my mouse here, then press the space bar. So I'm gonna create some... Then put my mouse here, press the space bar. So I'm gonna create some... I want that little section to just loop for me. So I'm gonna put my playhead indicator where I want the loop to start, and I'm gonna press I. Just like over here in the source window when we did I and O to bring a portion of the clip into the timeline, you can also do I and O in the timeline itself. I'm gonna put the playhead where I want the out point to be and press O. So now I've selected just this little bit, and I'm gonna enable loop playback, which is a button over here. And if you just open Premiere for the first time, you don't have this button. You're just gonna have to go to the button editor, which is this plus, and then find the button for loop playback, which is this button right here, and then drag it into your buttons. So enable loop playback. So now it's grayed. And then when you click play, it'll basically just loop that section. It doesn't mean your video is looped. It just means it's looped for you to be able to watch it. So I'm gonna create some whole. A little too long. I don't need all that lead up, so I'm just going to shorten. So I'm gonna create some whole. So I'm gonna create some whole. So I'm gonna create. The way to smooth this out is just to create a tiny little transition. The new version of Premiere Pro has audio fade handles on the timeline itself. You can see right here, that little square, that's the audio fade handle. If I hover over it and I just simply drag it, it'll create a nice little crossfade for me. So let's play that back. Some whole. So I'm gonna create some whole. So I'm gonna create. Maybe it's a little bit too much in the previous clip and I have to move it over a little bit. So I'll shift it over a tiny little bit. So I'm gonna create some. See how much nicer that is? So I'm gonna create some whole. Well, first let me turn loop playback off and then go over here, right click, clear the in and out points so it doesn't keep looping. Well, I want to put that transition everywhere, right? But I don't want to keep going to every single one of them and doing that little drag and transitioning and adding that little 2-frame fade because it's going to take me a really long time. So here's what I can do. First, I create one fade that I really like. And so this fade right here it is just 2 frames wide, and that's perfect. So I'm going to select it, Command Copy. So now it's copied. Then I'm going to zoom out. And if I drag a box around all the clips, you see how it selects the clips themselves? But if I press Command and I drag the box, it selects all the transitions between the clips. So I can paste that transition over. However, it's just an audio transition. So I want to select only the audio. I can just lock the video track by pressing this little lock button. And that way, even if I'm drawing a box, it still doesn't select the video track. So if I'm drawing a box while pressing Command, it only selects the audio transitions. And then I do Command V for paste, just your standard paste shortcut. And now take a look. As I zoom in, you can see that little 2-frame fade has appeared everywhere. Another thing I want to do is there are some very loud and annoying sounds in this video from mainly drilling, sawing, that kind of stuff. Mainly this section right here. I like the effect of it, but it is just too grating on the ears. So I can go ahead and lower the volume in a variety of different ways. I can select all of those clips, right click, go to audio gain, and adjust the gain. So here it says, adjust the gain by how many decibels do I want? Well, let's do -15, for example, and press OK. You can see here the actual decibel line got squeezed down. So it sounds like this now. Another way to do it is this white line that is in the middle of the entire audio track is a volume line. So I can lower the volume line like that. You might think, oh, well, to lower the volume line across all of them, you have to select all of them, and then that will lower the volume line, right? Select. Nope. It still only lowers the volume line of each one individually, which feels like a lot of work. Except you can just copy paste the volume adjustment. So just go to the volume adjustment that you like. And as you're dragging, you can see there's a little number next to the clip that shows you where your decibel level is. You can go over here to effect controls, and these are properties that you can copy paste across multiple clips. So my effect control for volume is this one. I select it, it's gray. By the way, the source window is still there. I just went to a different tab called effect controls. I'm going to select the volume line, Command Copy. Then I'm going to select all the other ones that I want to paste that same volume adjustment to, Command V. And now you can see all those lines are even. If I select all of them, the volume no longer pops up in effect controls because you've selected multiple of them. But over here in properties, it says multiple clips selected. Do you want to adjust the volume? Yes. And I can adjust the volume as a group over here. I don't mean to make this complicated. I mean to give you options, because in Premiere Pro, just like in many other programs, there are multiple ways to do a thing. And some of these ways might be more useful to you. Some of them might not. For example, another way to change the volume of a section, instead of doing what we just did, so I'll just do undo, undo, and bring the volume back to where it was, is this right here. This is the mix track, aka the global volume track. And for this one, you can actually create what we call ducking. So you can create a dip in the volume of this section and then keep it going the same for the rest by introducing keyframes. So you hold down the command button, click on the line that introduces one keyframe, click on the line again that introduces a second keyframe, and then drag this part of the line down. A keyframe is not complicated at all. It just means keep this value at this keyframe like this, and keep this value at this keyframe like this. So it's almost like the beginning and end of a value change of some kind. But take a look, because we only put 2 keyframes, the volume's regular, then the volume lowers, and then it's low for the rest of the video, right? And we don't want that. So we got to put another keyframe here and another keyframe here for when we want the volume to go up again, and then move that line back up to a regular level. So now let's listen to it. Again, the volume line didn't change on the actual clips. The main mix volume went down. Maybe a little too low, right? So then I could just raise it. What's the advantage of using these volume lines instead of selecting and then right-clicking and going to audio gain? Well, just that. You can change the volume visually very easily this way instead of having to right-click and type in numbers. But then again, what happens here if, let's say, okay, let's unlock this. Let's say I get rid of this clip right here. I don't need it at all. So I press Shift Delete, or my new shortcut, Alt D. Guess what? This volume adjustment stayed here, but the section that I wanted to change the volume on shifted over. So now it'll sound like a really loud screw gun, and then halfway through it'll get quiet, and then it'll remain quiet, and then halfway through the next clip it'll get loud, just like this. I have laid out the light strip here. So in order to kind of prevent yourself from doing that, I wouldn't recommend using the volume line unless you are 100% locked into your edit. So I'm going to undo a bunch. Undo. I'm not going to mess with the master volume. I'm only going to select these clips, and you can see now that I have unlocked it, it selected both the video and audio. And now here in the properties, it's giving me both video and audio transform controls. And I will not change the volume globally. I'll change it selectively like this. By the way, another way to unlink things, if you didn't want to lock that track just to get access to only the audio, or let's say you didn't want to unclick linked selection just to get access to the audio. Say you wanted to keep link selection on, but now the audio gets selected. Well, you can select all the clips that you want to unlink, right click and go to unlink. So now they're unlinked. Am I blowing your mind? Undo. Let me show you another way. You can select them all and press Command L, which is the shortcut for unlink. So now they're unlinked. Now you can select them willy-nilly. Undo. Another way you can do it, my favorite way to do it, is as you're dragging the box, you hold down Option or Alt. And that overrides anything else. It overrides the fact that these clips are technically linked. It overrides the fact that link selection is on. As you drag the box, you hold down Option or Alt. Let's find another section to lower the volume. Right here, this is good because I can see already. Low volume, high volume, low volume again. So let's lower the volume to match. Anything else that I can visually see? And again, if you don't see these waveforms visually, it might be here in the wrench menu over here. Click the wrench menu and make sure Show Audio Waveform is enabled. Because if I disable it, all my information is gone. I love that information. So we have added little fade transitions, right? And we have also lowered the volume on the clips that were really, really loud. But there's still a little bit to do because some of these clips, especially the outside clips, they're quite loud. There's a lot going on. Like for example here, create some holes for drywall screws. You can just hear the outside coming through and it's making the audio worse. Even here, there's a plane flying overhead and the audio sounds pretty bad even though we're indoors. The ceiling, and then they have diffusion panels which are white. In Premiere Pro, it's actually very easy to clean up the audio, but we need to open another panel. Up here in Window, we open the Essential Sound panel. Now, don't get confused. Essential Sound is what Premiere just calls their sound panel. And you can see it popped up here. My Properties panel is still here, but Essential Sound is also here. And it has auto-detected that what we are listening to here is dialogue. There's different types of audio, right? There's ambient sound, there's sound effects, there's dialogue. It has detected that someone in this clip is speaking. Let's maybe duplicate the audio so that just between you and me, we can listen to it before and afters by muting and unmuting instead. So I'm going to just duplicate only the audio. So I'm going to hold down Option, select just the audio. And while holding down Option, I'm going to drag down. That will duplicate that clip. By the way, holding down Option will duplicate any clip you want. You can see here. I'm holding down Option, dragging, it duplicates. And I have these indicators on, which tells me that it's a duplicate clip. Where are these indicators? They're here in the wrench menu. So I have Show Duplicate Frame markers on. If I turn them off, I don't see the duplicates. I'm gonna leave them on though. And I'm gonna delete all these by holding down Option or Alt. There we go. So I'm just working with these two. This one will be our hero, and this one will be the original one that we compare to. So for now, I will mute the original one so we can work on our hero. And over here in Essential Sound, we can just press the Enhance button. Let's listen to the original, and let's add a little bit of loop playback. So I will go up on my keyboard, press I to put the in point, down on my keyboard, press O. Or if I didn't want to do that, I wanted to create IO of this clip only, I can just select the clip itself and press X, and that puts the in and out points directly over the clip. And let's make sure loop playback is enabled over here. And let's play this clip. So these are the backings, the black backings. This is what attaches to the ceiling, right? And then let's play the original version of it. So these are the backings, the black backings. This is what attaches to the ceiling. Incredible, right? So I can do this enhance speech to everything in this entire project. I just select everything, deselect the one I've already added it to by pressing Shift and deselecting it, and then tagging everything over here under Essential Sound as dialogue, and then pressing Enhance. While that's cooking, let me just delete this duplicate. That was just for us. And then unmute it as well. How else can you be clever with sound? Well, here's a section that has only ambient sound, but it's at all different levels for very fast clips. And I don't like that. Let's play it through. Right? This middle one, it doesn't feel right. Even though I lowered the volume, I still think that it doesn't fit in with the other three around it, like this one, and this one. Let's play that again. So I would much rather just take the sound from this one and layer it underneath here. So I could, hold down Alt, select only this audio, delete it out of existence, and then extend that audio so it sounds like this. Right, that's already a lot smoother, but see what I did there? I edited destructively because I got rid of something. But what if I need it in the future? Now it's gone. So instead of doing that, what I'm gonna do is simply just put this audio on the second track. Just move it to the second track, and then extend it from there. If I just try to extend it, it won't work, right? It's still linked to the video. So I'm gonna hold down Alt or Option to extend it this way. And then this audio here, I'm gonna keep it there. I'm just going to disable it. Remember, this M mutes the whole track, right? I don't want the whole track muted. I just want this muted. So I'm going to Alt or Option, hold, select it. So it's just this little clip. Right click and deselect enable. You see how it grayed out? So now it goes this audio, this audio, this audio, this audio, while this is still here. It's just not enabled. It's silent. So let's play that through. Now, what happened? Well, we lost our little fade, right? We lost our little crossfade because crossfades only happen between two clips on the same track. So we're going to have to do a little bit of a manual crossfade, which means extend this one. Again, hold down Alt or Option, extend this one over a little bit, extend this one over this way, and then add a little manual fade so it doesn't sound abrupt. It's even more abrupt than I thought. Let's do that. I don't even need that little section in the front, so I'm going to ripple edit it by pressing B and then ripple editing that. Great. You can see here, enhanced speech, it created almost a froggy sound.
11 inches from the wall.
So for this one, I'm going to decrease the amount that enhanced speech is in there.
11 inches from the wall.
Sounds a little bit more natural. We've sort of done some manual loudness adjustments, but in order to get everything up to standard broadcast levels, you can just use the auto match loudness feature. So select all of the audio, and then up here in Essential Sound where it says select clips with tag, make sure that you have dialogue selected. And under the loudness tab, just click auto match. It takes a second. And there it says auto match for target loudness. So now as we play it through, notice the decibel scale on this side and how it's going to hit between -12 and -18, which is exactly where we want it. All over all four sides of the room, and it's all going to be controlled via a smart assistant. Moving on to the next step, we are going to, you guessed it, duplicate the sequence. So over here, O4 audio edit, going to hold down Command, drag up to duplicate, O5, and music. Double click to open. So now we have our fifth sequence open. To add music, you can obviously just drag in whatever music you want. I would recommend putting it into the music bin to stay organized. But did you know Premiere actually has music libraries built in? Thus far, we've been just using the Edit tab. But if you go to the Browse tab, here you can get music from Adobe stock. Not just music, but sound effects. So many sound effects. So in music, you can choose your mood. We want, let's see, festive. We want happy. You can choose your genre. Let's do maybe hip hop or pop. And then you can either filter by free or premium. The beats per minute, the duration. We know the duration is 3.5 minutes, right? So we want it to be at least that long. Vocals, let's say no vocals because I'm talking in the video. You don't want singing in the video. There we go. We have some options from the Essential Sound panel. We can also audition some of these options by making sure that timeline sync is on and putting our playhead at the beginning of the video, because then when we press these play buttons, we can actually audition each track. We can also change the loudness of the track so that it doesn't overwhelm. So let's play the first one. Hey, I'm Valentina, and today we're doing a really cool project in my living room. Takes too long to get started. Hey, I'm Valentina, and today we're doing a really cool project in my living room. I'm going to not bad, but extremely high tempo. Hey, I'm Valentina, and today we're doing a really cool project in my living room. I'm going to install track lighting all over all four sides of the room, and this is an option. So let's take it and drag it to our music folder and find some other options as well. Hey, I'm Valentina, and today we're doing a really cool project in my living room. I like that one too, so we're going to drag it into the music folder. You see here in the music folder, there's actually shopping cart icons next to these tracks. That means that I actually have to buy and license the track if I want to use it. But if I want to just audition it in my project, I can. It'll just be a low quality version of the track. So I will audition both of them. I'm going to drag them onto tracks A3 and A4. So this first one I will drag onto track A3, and the second one I will drag onto track A4. I'm going to get one more. Let's see. Hey, I'm Valentina, and today we're doing a really cool project in my living room. I'm going to install... I like that one too. I'm going to drag it to my music folder. And then, oh, there are no more tracks, right? So how do I put this third song onto a fifth track? Well, I just drag it into this bottom area, and that'll just add another track for us. I can either mute all three tracks and unmute the one that I want to listen to, or I can solo the track. But check it out. Soloing this track means I'm only listening to this music track. If I want to also hear all of the words, I also have to solo these. So it's up to you how you want to listen to this. You can either solo the first three tracks and then solo this one, mute that one when you are listening to the second music track, or I think it might be easier to just mute these back two and solo this top one. Now, when I play it through, you'll notice it'll be quite loud. So let's actually take all three of these, go over to properties, and turn the volume down by, let's just say 20 decibels. Okay, now let's play this first one called Afrobeat, Afro Hip Hop. I have laid out the light strip. Not bad. Okay, let's go to the middle one. For drywall screws. Also not bad. Let's go to the last one. For drywall screws. I have laid out... Here's a little tip. When deciding what the background music should be, also take a look at the waveform. If you zoom in enough, you'll actually see that in the first clip, there's a lot of the same repetitive motif. Listen. The light strip here. Duh, 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 duh. That's okay for a few seconds, but after, 3 minutes, it gets really, really repetitive. So you might want to go with something that has more variety in the sound, like this last one. Hey, I'm Valentina, and today we're doing a really cool project in my living room. I'm going to install track lighting. Let's use the last one. So let's delete these first two, and let's move the last one up. Unmute. So the music starts a little bit later in the clip of the track. There's this beginning part that we have to cut out, and the video starts here. So we could just very easily shorten this up and move it over. The other thing about this track is that it is way too long. There's this whole section. So we could shorten it like that. And of course we have snapping enabled, so it's snapped to the end, and create a little fade out. And this is what it sounds like. These tracks. So you see the effect of the lights, but you don't see the lights themselves. Hey, it's a little awkward because it kind of just ends. So instead of doing that, what a lot of people have done in the past, undo, is they will place a cut. So I went to my razor tool by pressing C. Then they will move this second portion down here. And then they'll try to, maybe they'll try to line up the beats by selecting this second one and then holding down Alt while going left and right in order to shift it one frame left and one frame right, trying to line it up like so. Okay, maybe if I put my playhead here, I can line up this hill and this hill, so I can go, okay, Alt to the left, not quite, but kind of. Okay, let's see how it sounds like, but I need to make this shorter and then put it up. Let's do a crossfade here. and then play it.
Painting and trimming the next project, which is the ceiling balance that I'm going to...
It's a little awkward, but I guess it works. Instead of doing any of that, I'm going to show you an easier way. So undo, 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 undo. So it's still the one file, and we'll go here to the remix tool. And the remix tool analyzes the song and then finds natural cut points to make it your desired length, you know, with a standard deviation of 5 to 10 seconds. So we'll just drag the end of it to our desired length, and you can see the clip analysis is happening. You can see it's inserted 2 cuts right here and right here that are indicated by these wavy lines, and it should play through a lot smoother than me doing it manually.
Long today is because I was also painting and trimming
Here we go.
which is the ceiling balance that I'm going to put all over the room to, you can kind of get it to hide these tracks. So you see the effect.
So now that I know that this is the clip that I'm using, I'm going to click on the shopping cart, and it says, do you want to license dramatic emotional pop rock Casa Amigos? This will use one of your 7 licenses. That's what I've got left in Adobe stock, and I'm going to press confirm. Your asset is ready, and I have blurred out this code, but it's basically a custom code that I got, and I press OK. You can see now the shopping cart is gone, which means I own the clip. One last bit to finish it up. I want to put some text at the end, like a thank you for watching or a stay tuned. So I'm going to go to the text tool, select it, and just type directly onto the screen. Stay tuned for the next video. Of course, this is just the default font, color, and everything, but in the properties panel, you can change all that. So I'm going to go back to my selection tool. So now I have the text selected, and you can see when I added the text, it actually added a graphic right here onto the second video layer. So let me make that graphic bigger so that it fits the entire length of this clip. And I can change the font. I can go, that seems nice. I can maybe change the color to something different, like the color of the lights maybe. So I use the eyedropper to drop the color of the lights. Have a little, maybe a little shadow, make it black. If you've ever used Photoshop, this is very similar to that. And let's align it in the center. Maybe make the actual center align the text to itself, then align the text in the center of the screen. Align the anchor point, and then align it in the center of the screen. Maybe make the font size bigger. And yeah, that looks good. Let's play it. Maybe I'll make the song a little bit longer. Go to the remix tool, make it a little bit longer. Let's see. This is where the song actually ends. So let me trim the end of this clip, and then I will have the content, the video, end a little bit earlier, but leave the graphic on the screen for just 1 second, half a second, so that on that is just the text. Watch. Nice. I want to do one more thing with the music. You can see there's certain times in the video where I'm not talking and it's just action that's happening on screen. And the action's quite quiet. Like for example here.
With like regular house paint. I need to have this be...
And what I want the music to do is sort of dip lower when I'm talking, but go higher when I'm not talking, so that the levels are more or less evened out. So using this volume line, what I can do is create keyframes on that volume line. Like for example, I'll start a little bit before, right? And what I want is I want to have this go down, then up higher during the action, and then down again for the words, right? So I can create keyframes by either going up here to effect controls and then pressing the level stopwatch here, which creates a keyframe on this track up here, and it also creates a visual keyframe here on the actual music track, meaning at this point in time, this value for the level of the music is at negative 23.9. Then I can move my playhead a little bit later, add another keyframe, move my playhead a little bit later, add another keyframe, or I can do it simply visually directly on the track by clicking on that volume line while holding down Command. That also creates a keyframe. And now what I can do is I can drag that middle section up. So let me drag it to, let's say, negative 14.6 decibels. And then the side sections I'll drag down to negative 28.9. So you can see here, the volume goes up and down. But if I have to do this every single time, it's going to get tedious, especially if the video is really, really long. So here under Essential Sound, you can actually do it automatically. If you just go down here to ducking, which is what this technique is called, not like quack, quack, duck. It's like duck under, a tree branch or something. That's ducking, right? So here in ducking, I can actually enable auto ducking. So I'm going to turn that on, and I'm going to say this music track, which is the track that's selected. You can see the white selection over it. I want to duck that music track against the dialogue. And here with these sliders, you can adjust your sensitivity, your duck amount, your fade duration, and your fade position. So for example, if I want it to be very, very sensitive, and I will jump out, press the backslash to see the entire project. If I want it to be very sensitive, duck a lot, and have very short fades, I can generate those automatic keyframes. And you can see here, every time there's moments of silence, it generated a very quick ramp of that music. But I don't want that. I want it to be a little bit less sensitive. I want the ducking to be sort of in the middle, maybe duck about 10 decibels. And I want the fades to be, a little bit longer. And so when I click Generate Keyframes again, it's going to ignore what the previous settings were and do it again for me. Ooh, maybe even less sensitive. Generate keyframes. So now let's listen to what this sounds like. Like regular house paint. Oh no, I need the duck amount to be much less than that and the fade duration to be longer. Generate keyframes. And then I want the overall clip volume to be a little bit higher. Let's see what that sounds like. More than one coat. Regular house paint. I need to have this be on. Nice. What about this section here? Holes for drywall screws. Maybe duck amount a little bit higher. Generate keyframes. Okay, let's take a listen. For drywall screws. How many channels I need for each wall and where to cut them. Now here, it created keyframes where it shouldn't have, right? Because even though I took a pause in speech, it wasn't long enough for it to create keyframes. So what I can do is I can delete these entirely. If I go over here, I can go to individual parameters, drop that down so that I see the physical keyframes that the auto keyframe created, zoom in a little bit, highlight those and delete them. And they've deleted off of that track. Now that we've got our video finished, we'll go to export and we'll finally be able to glue it all together into a video file on our computer. First, we have to find where the location of this file is going to live. So in our main project, here at the end, we have the exports folder. So we will select that. And then for the name of the project, I like to obviously have the date, what it is, and then the version number. For preset, we're going to go here and go to the high quality 1080p HD preset. This is going to be what is perfect for a YouTube upload, and Premiere Pro has already figured that out for you. For format, H.264 is the standard format for video online. And over here in range, we're going to do entire source. If we were to do source in out and we had in and out points on our timeline, it would export just that section. But for us, we want to export the whole video. We make sure that audio is selected. Export will export the video using Premiere Pro. Send to Media Encoder sends it to a different program that exports it while you can continue working in Premiere Pro. In this case, since we don't want it to get too complicated, let's just click Export. Our video here is in the Exports folder, and before we watch it together and then move on to editing the second video, I just wanted to say that if you've been enjoying this tutorial so far, I would love to hear from you. I'm putting my socials on the screen, and just send me a quick DM or a quick comment because I want to know how you're doing. Let's watch it together. Hey, I'm Valentina, and today we're doing a really cool project in my living room. I'm going to install track lighting all over all four sides of the room, and it's all going to be controlled via a smart assistant. So these are the backings, the black backings. This is what attaches to the ceiling, and then they have diffusion panels, which are white. I got really good quality film accurate lights, but the problem is, okay, the strip light's fine, but it comes with all this, all these cables and everything, and this is not cute. This is an outlet box cover for babies, and it locks like this. They all perfectly fit in here, and then I can actually close it. Ta-da! So there's a flush outlet here. So I bought a little extension cord with an outlet cover, and it's like a flush outlet cover. Step one is going to be to paint these outlet boxes and outlet covers to match. Things that are plastic, I have found, often need more than one coat when they are being painted with like regular house paint. I need to have this be on the exact, no, I should do 11 inches from the wall. Yeah. So I'm gonna create some holes for drywall screws. I have laid out the light strip here, and I want to know how many channels I need for each wall and where to cut them. This is going to be the right side. 6 inches from that one, 11 inches from that one. Now comes the easy part. I just have to install these little brackets in the ceiling with these little screws. Now that the brackets are up, it's really easy to put these channels in. They just click in. It's about right. Click it in. Put it in this bracket. Perfect. And then this bracket back here. Great. Now let's put the lights in. Comes out of here. All right, turn it on. I'll use this sticky to stick it up into the groove. Just gonna finish off this diffusion. Ta-da! Partly why this project took so long today is because I was also painting and trimming the next project, which is the ceiling valance that I'm going to put all over the room to, you can kind of get it, to hide
these tracks. So you see the effect of the lights, but you don't see the lights themselves.
Okay, let's get started with our second video. But now you have a choice. You can either continue on with this Premiere Pro project and edit 2 videos inside of it. You can actually edit as many videos as you want inside of a project because you just create new sequences every time. Or you can open a new project and start from scratch. The advantage to doing a new project is that all of your clips for both videos don't weigh your project down. Sometimes when you're working with hundreds of 4K clips, having a really large project slows your computer down. In this case, let's just keep working on this same Premiere Pro project, and I'll show you how to organize your clips so that you don't get lost. First, let's close all the sequences that are related to the previous video. Then let's do a little bit more organization of the footage. Here in the footage bin, while I have it selected, I'm going to select New Bin, and inside of there, I'm going to write O1 Lights. Then I'm going to take all of the lights clips, so the first one, hold down Shift, select the last one, and I'm going to put them in this sub bin. There we go. Then I'm going to go back, select the footage bin again, New Bin, O2 Molding, and I'm going to put all of my molding clips, again, select, hold down Shift, select the last one, put it in. So now my footage bin has 2 sub bins in it for my 2 different projects that I'm doing. The same thing here for sequences. I'm going to create a sub bin, O1 Lights, and the sequences that I had for lights, I'm going to drop in there. I might even want to rename them to specify what they are. Lights, Stringout. I hope you can understand the importance of labeling everything because you can get lost pretty quickly. I'm going to select the sequences bin again. I'm going to write O2 Molding, and that's our molding project. Now let's make a new sequence in the molding bin. So we'll go to New Item, Sequence, and keep the first thing selected here, HD 1080p 23.976, same as before, and we'll give it the sequence name O1 Interview Stringout. This will be our interview footage. And then we will create yet another sequence, and this is going to be called O2 B-roll Stringout. So now we have one of our sequences that has the interview footage in it and one of the sequences that has the B-roll. In order to see what the interview footage is, we'll go over here to Footage, Molding, and let's take a look at the thumbnails. Okay, looks like a lot of B-roll. And wait till we get to the interview. Aha! So here are the interview clips. We have A-cam interview clips and B-cam interview clips. And I believe they're different colors as well. So if we go over here to list view, we'll be able to see that the B-cam clips are this magenta color and the A-cam clips are this light blue color. There's also this clip right here, 48. Let's double click to pull it up. This is B-roll. So we know that that's not one of our interview clips. So this is what we're working with, 46, 47, and then 1 and 2 from B-cam. Which is which? Which matches with which? Well, there's a couple of ways you can see, especially if you have a lot of clips to match. Right now we have the frame rate column and the video info column. We also have media start and media end, which aren't that useful, but media duration sure is. So instead of having to scroll over, I'm just going to move that media duration column right next to us so we can see all that information. Now we can see here for this first A-cam clip, it is 14 minutes long. And this first B-cam clip is also 14 minutes long. So those, they match together. And then we have our second A cam clip. It's 8 minutes and 46 seconds long. And our second B cam clip is 8 minutes and 52 seconds long. So even though they're not obviously perfectly aligned, because I had to press record on one camera, then press record on the other camera, at the very least, you can sort of get an idea for which clips match with which, and which sound clips match with them as well. So if we go back one or two different levels here under audio, if we open this audio bin, we can see that one of these is 16 minutes and the other one is much shorter, almost 9 minutes. So that also clues us in to which audio file matches with which video files. And if we wanted to do this manually, here's how we would do it. We would go to where we know our 2 clips are from our A cam, our 2 clips from B cam, and our 2 clips from audio, and we would just drag them into the timeline. So I'm going to select both of those A cam clips, drag them in. Then I'm going to select both of those B cam clips, drag them in, and then both of the audio clips. And I'm holding down Command as I click on them to select multiple and drag them in. So you can see here's the long clip, here's the short clip, long clip, short clip, long clip, short clip. And then if I were to do this manually, I would use the waveforms to line them up to sync them. So I would draw a box over these at the end here, move them off a little bit, then go back here to the beginning. And there usually is some sort of visual cue. It can be a slate clap, or you can clap with your hands to show you exactly where that cut point is. So for example, here we have our B angle on top of our A angle, right? So we're only seeing B cam clip. And therefore, I'm going to solo just the B cam audio so we can hear where that clap happens. Let's play. This is the video about the crown molding, take 1. So that's where my click was, right? So I can both see it visually because you can see my hands coming together, and I can see it visually here on the waveform. So I'm going to zoom way in, and you can see this is where my little clap happens. I'm going to put my playhead where on this magenta clip the clap happens, and then I'm going to press the M button. The M button is going to insert a marker right there. That way I know that this is the clap, not this and not something else, but that is the clap. The same thing now, I'm going to go to the other clip and I'm going to see where that clap happens. So I'm going to unsolo that track, and I'm going to hide by using this little eye icon, the top track, so I can see what's underneath. And I'm going to solo that one that's blue. And go back to the beginning and watch for the clap. This is the video about the crown molding, take 1. So this right here is the clap. I'll do the same thing. I'll put my playhead right where the clap is, and then I will put M for my marker. Now I know that this marker here and this marker here have to line up. So I'll just move over by holding and dragging my bottom clip to match with my top clip. And because I've got snapping enabled over here, it'll just snap to that marker. Now for this bottom audio only, I don't have a visual clap that I can see where my hands come together. So I'll need to listen for it. Let me unsolo that and then solo that last one. And then I'm going to hide both just so I'm not distracted by it. Now let's play through that audio. This is the video about the crown molding, take 1. So that's where the clap happens, right there. I can use the left and right button to kind of jump to where I need to go, but you can see it's actually either jumping before the clap or after the clap. Why is that happening? Because Premiere Pro works in frames, right? Each of these is a frame, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I want to get even more granular in between the frames, I can right click here, show audio time units, deselect the snapping, and now I can bring my playhead even closer and put the marker right there, M for marker, and then turn the snapping back on. Deselect show audio time units. So now I'm back in frame mode. So basically, I want to get rid of everything before the clap, or at least I want to line up the claps, right? So I'm just going to shorten this bottom clip, bring it over until you can see it snaps. So now all I'm going to do is solo that third track, and it should line up with the top two. So let's try with A cam. Showed you how I did the track lighting in the ceiling. And then let's look at B cam. But as much as I love light strips, I don't love looking at them. Why do we do it like this? Well, because the audio that your camera records is never going to be as good as the audio that an external mic records. So when I was doing this interview setup, I had a lavalier mic right here. So that was picking up the clearest audio and much better than a camera that's far away. A lot of times when you're recording external audio, you have to use an external audio recorder, which is why you have to do this synchronization process. But it actually takes a long time. You know, we just did it manually just to learn, but it took a while. So instead of doing that, here with the second group of clips, I can just select all of them, right click, and go to Synchronize. It's going to ask, okay, what do I want to synchronize? I want to synchronize the audio track channel, and I'm going to say, okay. It's put them in sync for me, and let's just double check that. So on this wood wall that I installed, but I don't want to. Now this select, right click, and synchronize technique is great, but we already knew that this video clip goes with this video clip, goes with this audio clip, because we looked at the durations, right? But what if you have literally hundreds of them and you don't know which clip goes with which? Maybe all of them are 4 minutes long and you have no idea. How do you then synchronize and auto-synchronize all those clips? Let's see. So I'm going to select everything here and delete it and do it an even better way. So I'm just going to select all of the clips that I need to synchronize. So while holding down Command, I'm going to select the first two clips from A, the clips from B, and the audio. With all 6 of those selected, I'm going to right click and go to Create Multi-Camera Source Sequence. This will create little mini sequences that are all synced for me. And this is great if you have a lot of clips. So for the name, I'm going to say custom, and I'm going to say molding interview. For the synchronize point, I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. So the audio track channel mix down, just like I did before. Here for the options, this is something to note. So if you select move source clips to processed clips bin, that means that all of the clips that Premiere Pro does find to be a match, it will put in its own bin. I'm going to deselect it because I already like the organization that I have in this project. And then I'm going to make sure that enumerate cameras is on, meaning that for camera 1, I can just go to camera 1 by selecting the number 1. For camera 2, I can just go to camera 2 by selecting the number 2 on my keyboard, and I'm going to press OK. Imagine this happening for hundreds of clips. So here at the bottom, it's actually created the multi-camera source sequences, and they're not organized, right? They're just at the bottom. So what I want to do is I want to move them into my sequences bin that I've made for molding. So I'm going to select both of them and move them into the sequences bin. So a regular sequence icon looks like this, where, you know, it almost looks like the tracks aren't perfectly in sync. But when you create a multi-camera source sequence, it looks like this, where, you know, it's telling you all the tracks are in sync. So the regular sequence and the multi-camera source sequence are different and act differently. But first, let's just clean up a little bit and rename them. So I'm going to say take 1 And then for this one, I'm going to say take 2. And then in order to see all of those words, I'm going to just make that column a little bit thicker. If I go ahead and drag this molding interview take 1 directly into my timeline, it will look like this. And you're probably wondering, where are the takes? Why is it just one row? Well, because we selected enumerate cameras, I can actually toggle between camera 1 and 2 like so, and I can see the different angles. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. It created essentially a Russian nesting doll effect. So this is a sequence now within a sequence. And if I want to take a look at what's inside of here, I go ahead and hold down Alt to select just the audio and double click. You can see it opened that sequence here. And all of that info is here. You're also probably wondering, why does it look like this? Well, it looks like that because if we go to the video info column under B-Cam, my B camera clips were shot in HD, 1920 by 1080. However, my A camera clips were shot in 4K, 3840 by 2160. So they are different sizes. The A cam is 4 times the size of the B cam. And so when Premiere was making the multi-camera source sequences, it made them based on the larger size of the clip. So it made those multi-camera source sequences 3840 by 2160 instead of 1920 by 1080, which is what we want our sequence to be. Now let me go back to the main sequence. That's why when you actually click on this multi-camera source sequence inside of our main sequence and you go to effect controls, you'll see that it has been scaled to 50%. Because the main sequence is 1080, the source sequence is 4K, so it has to be scaled down in order for the entire frame to be filled. This technique is great if you have not just 2 cameras, but a lot of cameras, because you can actually see what both cameras are at the same time. If you go over here to toggle multi-camera view, and if you don't have the toggle multi-camera view button, you're just going to have to go to the button editor with the plus, open it up, and then drag the icon for toggle multi-camera view into your buttons here. You're going to press that, and all of a sudden, you can see both cameras at the same time. You can toggle between them by pressing 1 and 2 on your keyboard, just like that. You can also use those 1 and 2 keys on your keyboard to actually create cuts as you're playing through. For that, you're going to need to have another button, this red button. The red button is the multi-camera record on off toggle. And again, if it's not there, go to the button editor and drag the red button down into your button editor. Once that is enabled and you hit play, you keep your fingers on the 1 and 2 keys. And as this plays through, the 1 and 2 keys will actually create cuts for you. Let's play it.
Y project having to do with the ceiling, and I want to go through it.
2.
In my last video, that was more of a vlog,
1.
I showed you how I did the track lighting in the ceiling.
2.
But as much as I love light strips, I don't love looking at them.
1.
I like the effect they make. You can see here on the curtains.
So now that I've done the 1, 2, 1, 2, you can see that it has created cuts here on the video layer, and they toggle back and forth. Let me turn the multi-camera view off so you can see. So then I can, for example, go to the B-cam clips and scale them up. Right now, 50%. You can do it either in the Effect Controls panel, here under Scale, or in the Properties panel under Scale. You'll see the number is the same. I can take that to 100. Or I can select both B-cam clips by holding down Shift as I select them. And then I can scale both of them at the same time. Over here, scale 100. Let's say I have a lot more cuts though. Let's say I have a cut every couple seconds. I'm going to select every other one here and press the 2 button in order to make all of those B-cam. And let's say I'm zoomed out, so I can't exactly see which one's B cam, which one's A cam. Is this B cam? I'm not sure. Holding down shift, but I don't know. So another way I can determine which ones are B cam, which ones are A cam, I'll select them, right click, and in the multi-camera options, I'll select flatten. And now they revert back to my original colors. I know that B cam is this magenta, so I can right click, go to label, select label group. Now all the magenta are selected, and I can scale those 100. Or even simpler, maybe I don't know the exact number to scale it. Maybe I shot at a different resolution, or I'm not sure exactly what number will take me to full screen. I'll right click and go to fit to frame. And now all of those magenta clips are fit to the frame. Personally, this is not my favorite way of working with multicam clips. I kind of like working with them where I see all of the stacks. So for the second take, instead of bringing it over again like this, what I'm going to do is deselect this button. It's called Insert and Overwrite Sequences as Nests or Individual Clips. All you got to know is now that it's deselected and I bring over my multi-camera source sequence, it comes over as a stack instead of as a sequence. If you're trying to drag the multi-camera sequence over and it's still coming as just one giant clip, that probably means that you have this setting disabled, the multi-camera falls nest setting here in the sequence menu. So make sure that that is checked. You can see here, I have A cam, B cam, and the audio. When I'm on A cam, I can simply just go to scale, take it down to 50%. And then B cam is already at the perfect scale for me because, well, I recorded B cam in 1080 and the sequence is 1080. So now let's do that for A as well. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to bring over take one. You can see there it is. It's all synced up. I have B cam on top. I'm going to hide this, A cam on the bottom, and right click, fit to frame. There we go. Both of them are now filling the frame for both takes, and it's all synchronized. Now that I have this synced string out, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to duplicate the sequence to start on my first cut. Now, luckily, we have already done this, so it should be pretty easy, right? We just mute those bottom tracks so that we only hear the actual clean audio track. And then we find our first cut point right here, and we do what? Command K. We do Command K, right? No, because see how it only cut that A cam? It didn't cut through B cam. Why? Well, track targeting over here is only enabled for the first track. It's not enabled for the second track. So if we select V2 so that it highlights blue behind it, and then we want to do Command K, let's click the down arrow to snap to that next playhead, and we do Command K, there we go. We inserted that edit. Now we can select everything underneath this playhead by pressing the D button. That's D, which selects everything underneath the playhead. And then ripple delete. What happened? Well, it got rid of our audio track. Why? Because we never inserted a cut on the audio track either. Why? Especially because it was track targeted. So if it was track targeted, and that was the reason why the B cam wasn't cutting, why was the audio track also not cut? Well, let's go back and see what happened. So when we were inserting the cut, even though all three of the audio tracks are track targeted, meaning they are ready to accept shortcuts, and both of the video tracks are track targeted, the top track is selected. The selection overrides any track targeting. So when we did the Command K, it actually only cut B cam because B cam was selected. We would have had to click over here somewhere in space to deselect everything and then do Command K, that Command K would have cut through everything, including the audio track. So now we have this in two pieces. Then we can either select everything before by drawing a box, or we can put the playhead over it and press D to select it, and then do the ripple delete. So as we keep going, let's find the next cut point.
Welcome to my living room. I have just finished yet another DIY project having to do with the ceiling, and I want to go through it. In my last video, that was more of a vlog, I showed you how I did the track lighting in the ceiling. But as much as I love light strips, I don't love looking at them. I like the effect they make. You can see here on the curtains, it just highlights those folds and makes it really lush and cinematic, but I don't want to see the light strips.
I want to cut out the words, but I don't want to see the light strips. So I want to cut out this section right here. So I'm going to put my playhead right here, make sure nothing is selected. So click out, do Command K, and I insert that cut there. Then go over here again, make sure that nothing is selected, and then press W, and that gets rid of that middle. There's an even more efficient way to do this though. So let's go to our next cut point.
So I came up with this idea, and the first thing I did was
press L to go
look
faster.
Anyone else had the idea, and it seems like this is a Valentina original thought. Create molding on the ceiling in a sort of cove lighting type of.
So I want to cut out this gulp that I did. So instead of having to constantly be clicking out so that we don't have that top clip selected, I can just override that selection by doing Shift Command K instead of Command K. Watch this. So even with that top clip selected, instead of doing Command K, I'll do Shift Command K, and that'll cut everything. So I can go back here. Again, the top clip is selected. If I just do Command K, it only cuts that top clip. But if I do Shift Command K, it cuts through everything. But in this case, I don't need to do Command K. I need to do W. So let's find the next cut point.
Create molding on the ceiling in a sort of cove lighting type of way. Usually people put LED light strips that face the ceiling.
I want to cut out the words in a sort of cove lighting type of way. So I'm going to go to the beginning of the portion that I want to cut out, and it's this portion right here. I'm going to do Shift Command K, and then I'm going to go to the end of that portion and then do Q to cut out that middle.
Usually people put LED light strips that face the ceiling, and they put their molding on the wall, and I decided to put my molding on the ceiling and put the LED light strips pointed down the wall. In a way, this is kind of like a window valve.
The next cut I want to do is with this silence right here. And let's say I really don't want to do Shift Command K because that takes up too many resources and that's too many buttons. I just don't want the top clip selected at all. So I'll go over here to Sequence and I'll deselect Selection Follows Playhead. That way, when I am moving my playhead, it's not automatically selecting the top clip. So I can just do Command K and Q. Go to the next silence, Command K and Q.
And the first thing I had to do,
cut out this silence, right? I can see it visually because I'm looking at the waveform. Command K, Q, Command K, go over here, Q. This is a long video though. It's 24 minutes and we've just started cutting it up. There's a way that you can do this way more efficiently, and it's called text-based editing. For this, we'll have to open another window. So we go to Window and make sure Text is selected. In the text window, you're going to see 3 tabs: Transcript, Captions, and Graphics. Before we can create captions or graphics, we'll need to create a transcript. Premiere Pro will have to analyze the clips, listen to them, and then create a transcript based on what it hears. So we'll go over here to Transcript, and it says here 2 source clips have not been transcribed. What are they? Well, They are the two audio clips that we have. So let's just click transcribe. This means that the software will listen to what is being said, create a transcript of the words, and then we can just edit the transcript just like you would a regular text document, and those edits apply in the timeline. It's pretty cool. What's awesome about this process is that not only can it understand the words, but it can understand the punctuation. It knows when you paused, when to start a new sentence. It's really, really cool. So let's play it and see what happens. I just select a word in this transcript and then press the spacebar to play.
So I came up with this idea, and the first thing I did was look on the internet to see if anyone else had the idea. And it seems like this is a Valentina original thought.
So Valentina is not a common word. So I can go in here and edit the transcript. Double click. Change Valentino to Valentina, then click out and keep going.
Original thought, create molding on the ceiling. Usually people put LED light strips that face the ceiling and they put their molding on the wall.
So here I can just read and edit what this says instead of going and listening to the video. For example, I said, in a way, this is kind of like a window valance. And then later I said, in a way, this is kind of like a window valance combined with molding. So I'm going to just select, in a way, this is kind of like a window valance, and delete it. You can see it updated down here in the transcript. I'm going to keep editing using this transcript until I've done my entire first cut. You can also copy paste or move words around and it'll update in the edit as well. For example, this whole section is me redoing my intro and I want to move it to the very beginning. So I will just highlight it all, right click. I'm going to say cut, extract, and then go back to the beginning, to the top. Go here, right click and paste. So you can see in the sequence, it has taken it out and then pasted it in the front. I'm almost done with the first cut. In these 2 takes, I said a lot of the same thing. And so for me, I'm going to have to decide which version of talking about the same thing I like the most. For example, I talked about C-stands in both of them. So I want to put those clips next to each other so that it's easier to edit out later. So I'll go up here to the search and I'll type in stands. And you can see it provided me with 7 results. The first time I talk about stands is over here around 5 minutes in. And then I go down, down, down. And the second time I talk about stands is over here. So I'm going to select all of this section where I talk about stands, right click, cut, then go back to that first section where I talk about stands and paste. So that all of the information about the stands is all in the same place. As I'm going through this, I also see a lot of pauses like here, here, and here. And Premiere automatically detects those pauses. So if I go to the transcript around this time, it's actually found those pauses like right here, and right here, and right here, and right here. So I can make sure to go over here to automatically set in and out points, and then take that pause and delete it. Or I can just get rid of all of the pauses at the same time. So if I go over here to search, I can actually filter by pauses. Click the delete button and it's going to ask me, do I want to extract them or lift them? If I press lift and I click delete all, it deletes all the pauses, but it leaves gaps. If I wanted to not leave the gaps, when I click delete, I would select extract and then delete all. And then it rippled everything forward. Now that I've done this first cut using text-based editing, I'm going to refine it using traditional editing. So just to leave myself a little bit of room, instead of ripple deleting, I will just be regularly deleting by pressing the delete key. So for example, So I'm going to delete that. So see how I left a little bit of room here, because now I want to take this clip and then put it here, because I think that's a better second half of the intro. Okay, so I'll move this one over, make sure snapping is selected, and then I will move this one into that gap. I'm fast forwarding here, but don't get confused. All I'm doing is reorganizing the footage, and I'm leaving the gaps so that I don't get lost. It's almost like each little chunk is a sticky note, and I'm rearranging them on top of a table. And here is where I landed for my second cut. As you can see, all the gaps are still there. So if I wanted to close them, I could click in each gap, right click, ripple delete, right click, ripple delete, right click, ripple delete, or I can close all the gaps all at once. So I will undo all that. And in order to close all the gaps, I'm going to have to create a close gap shortcut because one doesn't exist. So here in Edit Keyboard Shortcuts, I'm going to type in close gap. And as you can see, no shortcut exists. I'm going to just click here and do Shift Command G. It says the shortcut Shift Command G is already in use by another application on group. So that's not a shortcut that I want to use. Let's do Alt, Command or Control, G. That works. Okay, that's going to be my close gap shortcut. So now I go back into my sequence and I use that shortcut and all the gaps are closed. So I'm around 6 minutes. I feel like I can cut this down even more. Let's see. I'm going to duplicate this sequence and continue working. 04, I'm going to say checkerboard. Because what I'm about to do is checkerboard these clips, A, B, A, B, A, B, as I enable and disable them so that it doesn't look like a bunch of jump cuts. Right now, that's exactly what it is because we're only seeing the top clip over here. We're only seeing B cam.
And of course, it was 3 coats of paint, but I got it done and it looks stunning. And now I get to relax.
Right? But if it was checkerboarded, like so, it would look like this.
Coats of paint, but I got it done and it looks stunning. And now I get to...
So instead of deleting anything, first I'm going to insert some cuts. These cuts are going to be only for the purposes of switching angles. And I will do so not on top of a word, but between words. So I'll use the waveform to kind of be able to tell where to place those cuts. Like, for example, here, Command K, and again, I have sequence selection follows playhead off, because if I were to have it on, then it would only select the top clip. So if I did Command K, it would only cut the top clip. I would have to do Shift Command K to cut everything down. So I'm going to deselect selection follows playhead and insert those cuts in between words, or where I see pauses happening. All right, that looks good. And because I have the video and audio clips linked right now, I don't think it matters very much because we still have these two muted. But just in case, let's just lock these bottom 2 tracks. That way, when we select either B cam or A cam here at the top, we're not selecting any of the audio associated with it. I'll start with, obviously, the wide shot, which means that this top clip, I'm going to make it disappear by disabling it. Right click and make sure enable is deselected. I can go ahead and keep going by just holding down Shift and selecting every other clip. And then instead of right clicking and going enable, I just do Shift E. And that's the shortcut for either enabling or disabling. So now let's play through, see what it looks like, and continue enabling and disabling, aka checkerboarding these clips. I don't really have to do anything with the bottom clips because If the top clip is enabled, the top clip shows. If the top clip isn't enabled, the bottom clip shows. Obviously, if you had 3, 4, 5 tracks, it would be different.
How I did the track lighting in the ceiling, but as much as I love light strips, I don't love looking at them. I like the effect they make. You can see here on the curtains, it just highlights those folds and makes it really...
For this one, I'm actually going to keep on the A cam because I'm talking about the curtains and the folds. So then for the rest of them, I want this to be enabled, this to be disabled, this to be enabled, this to be disabled. So I'll select all of them here that I've already done. Shift E flips which is enabled and which is disabled.
At 45 degrees. So using a hacksaw, I cut each piece into 2. So I would have 8 halves. So I could put together the corners first. And then I noticed that I didn't really have a good point of contact. This crown molding is meant to go on the wall and on the ceilings.
For this one, I know that I'm going to cover it with B-roll, and I have this lip smack, so I'm going to cut out the lip smack. Command K. Oh, but see Command K, since I have the bottom 2 tracks locked, it didn't cut. So I have to unlock those tracks, go back. So I press up to go back to that cut point and Command K again. You're probably wondering, well, why don't you just delete that audio? Since you're not using the audio from the camera, you're only using the audio from the external recorder. Deleting the audio would mean editing destructively. And say I needed it later for some reason. Why not just mute it? It's okay if it's there. It's just muted. I can always bring it back if I need to for any reason. For this, maybe it's best to not lock the tracks, but in fact, turn off linked selection. And I'll checkerboard the rest while also trimming it up a little bit more, making it a little tighter. Here, I have me going out of focus, and I can go to 150% to show you even better. Use the hand tool H to show you right here. So I've gone out of focus in this shot.
I decided to put tennis balls on the end of the stands.
Now I know that I'm going to be putting B-roll on top of it, but just for the sake of argument, the way to solve this would be to maybe insert a cut over here. So Command K, and then change all of this checkerboarding, Shift E, so that it flips to the B cam during that moment, instead of staying with A cam, which goes out of focus. At the end here, I have 2 clips that have to be with A cam because in the second to last clip, I'm talking about these bookshelves in the background, so I have to stay with A cam. And then in the last clip, that is, my sign off. So I would rather be doing it directly to camera. In order to prevent a jump cut here, I can just zoom in on that second clip. So it'll look like I'm just punching into the same thought rather than a wild jump cut where my hands are in different positions. And I have the latitude to do that because remember, this A cam footage is in 4K. So right now it's at 50% scale here in the properties panel. So I can even take it to something like 60% and it still looks good, or even maybe 65. If I take it to 80, it might be a little bit too cut off at the top, but I can reframe it over here in under position. So I can either type in a new number for the Y coordinate, something like 700, or I can just hover over the number 700 and move it left to right. It might be a little too zoomed in. Maybe we do something like that. And then if I wanted to copy paste this transform control to other A-cam clips, I could do that too. So I'll just go over here to effect controls. And you can see those same position and scale controls that were in the properties panel are in effect controls. So I just select the word motion here, and then I go Command C to copy. And then maybe I find some opportune places throughout this video to pop in for a little more of a close-up on this A-cam footage. Now that I have the bulk of my interview done and edited and more or less picture locked, let's transition to the B-roll and see what we can do there. Remember, we've already made a B-roll string out sequence where we're going to put all of our B-roll. So we'll go to our footage over here, our footage folder, double click, maybe go to icon view so that we see all of it here. On the last video, the way that we made our string out is we selected the first clip, then we held down shift while we selected the last clip, and then we brought them all in, right? And then we used the QW Command K workflow to cut them down in the timeline. Right now, I've dragged all the B-roll clips in here and there's 53 minutes of them. So there's quite a bit, especially when we're trying to make this a 5-minute video. Instead of doing it like this time around, let me show you an easier way. Undo. Let's go to the very first one right here. This is, of course, the before. We're going to keep our fingers on 3 different keys. I, O, and comma. So this is for in, out, and insert. And we're going to be using the playhead that's in the source monitor, which means that's on the clip. So keep your fingers on I, O, and comma. Where we want the portion of the clip that we're putting into the string out to start, we'll put our playhead there. We'll press I. That creates this gray section. That's our active section of the clip. Then we'll move the playhead to here, click O, and then click comma. And you see the comma has inserted that clip into our timeline, as well as moving the playhead to the end of it so that our next clip can go right next to it. So let's keep going. This is the other before. So we'll start here, I, O, comma. And we will continue building the string out in this way. But before we do that, let's take a look at some info about these clips. We'll go back to list view. So these first 2 clips that we've put onto the timeline are 23.976 frames per second, so 24 frames per second. And the timeline itself, if you remember, if we go to sequence settings, the timeline itself is 23.976 frames per second. However, the rest of these B-roll clips, look at all of them, they are mostly in 59.94 frames per second. And we've in fact labeled them with this darker blue color to indicate that. What does that mean? Well, when I double click and I play the clip and I just press play, here, here, and here, show the top of it just so that you can kind of see. It plays through regular speed. And if I set the in and out point, I, O, and then I press comma, and it goes into my timeline over here, and I play it in my timeline. So let me press up to go to the beginning and press play. Here, here, and here, show the top of it. It plays regular, and that's fine, but it has the possibility of playing back in slow motion. And the way to do that is twofold. First, I can rate stretch it. So I select it. Oh, it just selects the video, not the audio as well, because I don't have linked selection on. I select it and I can rate stretch it. Instead of hovering over and extending this way, because that's just going to extend the clip. Here and here, show the top of it. It's not going to slow it down, undo. I'll go over here and make sure that rate stretch is enabled. I'm on the rate stretch tool, or I can press R. And now when I hover over it and expand it, here in brackets, it actually tells me I have now rate stretched it to 48.95%. And now I play it. And so I have the option of having the clips in slow motion. But the problem lies in when I start putting them all on the timeline, right? So I'll go I, O, comma, right? The next one, I will go I, O, comma. Next one, I, O, comma. All right, so now they're right next to each other. So if I wanted to rate stretch them, I would have to move this one out, create a gap, move this one out, then go to this one, press R, rate stretch, press R, rate stretch, press R, rate stretch, okay, then press V, put them back again. That takes way too long. So instead of doing all of that, I'm going to conform them to the frame rate of the sequence first before I do the in and out workflow. So I'm going to select all of the ones that I've already put in there, delete, and I'm going to select them in the bins first. So I'm going to, let's order them by frame rate. So all of the 23/9/8 are at the top, and I know all of the 60 frames per second are at the bottom. I'm going to select the first one, press Shift, select the last one. So now all of them are selected. Right click, go to Modify, Interpret Footage. And here is where I can change the frame rate. So instead of use frame rate from file, I'm going to select assume this frame rate, which is 23.976, the exact frame rate of our sequence. And then I will press OK. In the bins, when I click on it and I try to play it, it is now in slow motion. So I'll put my playhead back to the end of where I left off by going to the up arrow. And of course, I have to set new in and out points because the in and out points I had before are no longer relevant now that the file is much longer. So I'll go to I, O, comma. And let me go to icon view. And then here again, I will set I, O, comma. And I will keep going through, choosing the best little bit of each clip. In some of these clips, you might want multiple in and outs. For example, here I'm showing the regular stuff. And then later, oh, here's an even better version of it. And then I'm also showing this one. So I do I and O multiple times, and then I wait for all that to happen. And then here's another section that I want to use. I, O, comma. Now that we have our B-roll string out all ready to go and our interview, aka our A-roll, ready to go, we can start putting our B-roll into our A-roll sequence. But where to put it? Are we going to have to listen to me talk every single time I want to know where to put something? So that I had more surface area on the top of the crown molding. So here I'm talking about surface area, for example. So am I going to have to go to the B-roll string out over here, find the clip where I'm indicating about the surface area, then copy it. Oh, well, lock that one, copy it, then go over here and paste it, then it pastes on the bottom. It's like a whole thing, right? No. The first thing I'm going to do is indicate exactly where in this sequence I want the B-roll to go. Like we did earlier, where we placed the marker on the clip to line up the sync points, you can also place markers up here on the timeline itself. So I'm going to place the marker by pressing M. You can see the marker appears on the timeline itself. And I can double click on it and give it a name. So here I'm talking about the profile. And I can give it a duration. So let's say 2 seconds. There it is. I can even extend the duration here of me talking about the profile. Let's place another marker
On the wall, and I decided to put my molding on the ceiling and put the LED light strips pointed down.
LED light strips pointed down. So I'm going to press M. And instead of double clicking and extending the duration, I'm just going to hold down Alt and extend the duration. Then I can double click and type in a name. So I'll say LED strips. Again, this is just for me to know what this is. And I can always also double click. I can change color if I want to, if that helps indicate anything. Once you've added your sequence markers, let's say you wanted to change something, like get rid of this clip. So I'm just going to ripple delete that and take a look at the markers above. You see that all the markers that reference particular parts in the video are now all off. In order to have the markers ripple, I just have to go over here to the marker menu and make sure that ripple sequence markers is on. That way, again, like when I choose to ripple some stuff, you can see the markers ripple. Let me undo that though. Before I go any further and start adding B-roll, let me duplicate the sequence. Reveal sequence in project, drag while holding command, 05, B-roll, added, great, double click. Now I'm in the B-roll added sequence, and just to not get confused, I'm gonna do B-roll added and B-roll string out as the only sequences here. So I'm going to get rid of the rest of them by hovering over and clicking the little X, because I don't need them, they're just previous steps. So now I just have these two sequences, and I'm gonna pull clips from this one in order to put it on this one using a technique called pancaking. So I can literally just take this one, hold and drag to undock it, and then dock it on top of the bottom one, like pancakes. So now it'll be really easy because I can see here, for example, I have the word saw. So I'll go up here, take a look at my thumbnails. Oh, I was sawing right there. So I will just drag this clip right where I have the word saw, and I'm going to drag it in. So over here, I have my jigsaw stuff. So I'll find the jigsaw clip. That's one jigsaw clip. That's another jigsaw clip over here. A third jigsaw clip, this would be the establishing one. So I'll put it forward and move all of them back. Great. Then this is me talking about the profile. So let's see, the profile. This is the profile piece. There we go. Maybe I'll extend it a little bit. Nice. Now there may be times when you need just an additional couple of seconds. For example, in this clip over here where I'm painting the cock, you can see at the beginning of the clip, I sort of start with my paintbrush already on the molding, and then I bring it down across, but I don't have any more in front. In fact, this is where the clip starts. The clip itself, you can see that little triangle at the top left corner. That means there's no more. If I double click it and open the clip over here in the source window, you can see there's no more clip. So I can actually use Generative Extend to generate a couple more seconds in this clip if I need them. The Generative Extend button is here at the bottom, and you can simply just drag to add a couple more seconds to either the beginning or end of a clip. You can also add more seconds to audio. You can add up to 10 seconds of audio or 2 seconds of video. This is a premium feature of Premiere Pro because it takes extra computational energy in order to generate new frames that just didn't exist before. You can see here that it added a little tag for the portion of the clip that was extended. And let's see what that looks like here. We'll go I and O for in and out. We will go to loop playback so that we can see it play back again and again. The first couple of seconds are generatively extended.
Cork needed to be painted, and of cork needed to be painted, and of cork needed to be painted.
Looks really nice, right? So this whole section did not exist. The real footage starts from here onwards. In some instances here, as you're going through and adding B-roll from the B-roll string out to our main sequence, you might find that that slow motion is a little too slow. For example, right here.
And I tried to do it with only cock, just like the manufacturer said to do.
When I say just like the manufacturer said to do, I want to switch to this other clip, but I want the tool to go farther down this strip in that same amount of time. So I'm going to select this clip, R for rate stretch, and then rate stretch it right then and there to go faster than real speed, and then move this clip over, and this is what it looks like.
And I tried to do it with only cock, just like the manufacturer said to do.
Even this one too, I will rate stretch it even faster.
Do it with only cock, just like the manufacturer said to do, except it kept.
And then let's see, if I right click and reveal in project, I go to list view, I can see that this clip right here is actually in 4K, 3840 by 2160. And to avoid jump cuts like 1, 2, 3, maybe this middle one, I zoom in a little bit. So I'll go over here to properties and I'll change the scale to, I don't like going more than 100%, so I'll go 100%. And I'll change the position. That way there's no jump cut. It just kind of zooms in and then comes out.
The manufacturer said to do, except it kept falling. So I took 2 C-stands to...
And then here too, I can insert a cut, Command K, while having that selected. And then the second half of it, I will zoom in and reframe a bit.
To hoist it up there and hold it up there. Well, they actually created dents in the molding.
So here I have a marker for tennis balls, but try as I might, I can't actually find in my B-roll Stringout where I have my tennis ball clip. So instead of going back to my bin here and trying to find the tennis ball footage, I can just search for it as a keyword. This is called Media Intelligence and Search Panel. I'll go up to Window and pull up the search panel. And in the search panel, you can search for visuals, text, metadata, or everything. So I'll search for visuals, and I want the visual of a tennis ball. I'm telling it in this whole project, please find me a tennis ball visual. Tennis ball. And it found the 2 clips that have tennis balls, and I can actually hover scrub over it to get a little preview of what's in the clip. This is not the best one, but I think this one will work. So I can open it up here. Nice. I will choose a good section of it, I and O. I only want to drag the video portion of this part of this tennis ball clip into here in this sequence. So I can just hover over the drag video only icon and put it in. Another way to do this is to use our comma shortcut. So watch what happens. I put my playhead here, I go over to the clip and I press comma. What did it do? Well, it definitely inserted the clip, but it also rippled everything backwards and it inserted it on the V1 layer over here where our A roll is. And I really wanted it to go on the V3 layer. I also didn't want it to ripple. So the comma insert shortcut is the wrong one. You want to do the overwrite shortcut. So instead of doing comma, we do period. It was the right shortcut, but source patching was on the wrong layer. The source patching is this highlight next to V1. It's telling the software that when you are bringing clips in, they're going to go onto the track V1 and onto the track A1. If I want to overwrite that clip and put it on the V3 layer, I'm going to have to make sure that the source patching is on V3 as well as on A4. And I'm going to mute A4 because we don't want to hear it. So now when I press period or I go over here to overwrite, same thing. That clip goes onto the V3 track and the audio goes onto the A4 track, just where I have source patched it. All right, let me continue putting all the B-roll into the sequence through a combination of dragging it over from the pancaked B-roll Stringout or pulling it up from the original footage using the overwrite shortcut. All right, I'm almost done laying out all of the B-roll. What's left is just the beginning bit, which is the before and after, and also the callback to the previous video. So for the callback to the previous video, I am going to actually import my previous export. So over here in my main folder organization, I'll add another bin and I'll call it 06 exports. And I'll go to my main folder in exports where I exported that first project and I'll drop it in. And now I can use that as B-roll as well.
I showed you how I did the track lighting in the ceiling, but I showed you.
So right there is where I'm going to put it in. So let's find kind of the best section. Maybe right here. where I have that little chase sequence that happens in the track lighting. So and
I'll use
a little bit before I'm going left on my keyboard to go one frame at a time. That's good. I press period to insert that clip in. Let's insert a different clip in. Let's do this one. And O, and then period. The other piece of B-roll that I want to put in is the before and after. So I'm going to go to my footage folder, molding. I know that I have the befores here. So let me choose, this is a good before, because it sort of shows you a little bit more of this wooden wall. So I'm going to drag that in as the before, and then I'm going to go all the way to the bottom. This is the after. And what I want to do is almost line these up perfectly so that when I say before and after, it's like, and it cuts. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put this after clip on top of everything. And just like the audio tracks that have this white line that go through every single audio track, and that is the indicator of the loudness, the video tracks have a white line as well, and that is an indicator of the opacity. So that'll help me sort of line up these two clips so it looks like one transitions into the other seamlessly. I will select the top clip and I will drag that white line down so that my opacity is less, so I can see through it. And it looks like it's fairly the same size, except maybe I use the chandelier and the sconces to line it up. So I'm going to nudge this top clip to the left a few frames by holding down Alt and going left on my keyboard. Nudge, nudge, nudge. I'm going to keep nudging it until it more or less lines up with the bottom clip. Keep nudging. Okay, it looks like it's sort of lining up, but not quite. The sconces aren't quite lined up. So one of these needs to be larger. Let's try the top one. If I go to scale and I try to scale it up, that looks a little bit more accurate. Now I can change the position over here in the transform controls. And I actually want to be doing this not right here, because that's way after I say the word after. So this is where I need that match to happen. Let me play around with the scale a little bit more, the position a little bit more. And that looks pretty good to me. So I will take this opacity back up to 100%. I will do Command K to cut, and then I will just delete this top clip. I also have to trim this end of this clip as well and delete the end. So let's see what this looks like.
From looking like this to this. In my last video,
I'm going to save that, and I am done with laying B-roll. There are also a few clips that could use stabilizing. For example, this one is very jittery as I play it back.
these styrofoam pieces, they just kind of got...
Even in slow motion, it's pretty jittery. If we go to our effects window, which is a new window we haven't seen before, and if you lose it, it's up here under window, effects. I can go to our video effects, distort, warp stabilizer, which is Premiere's internal stabilization. So we just drag that directly onto the clip. Under effect controls is where we can control what we want the effect to look like. By default, it does a subspace warp type of stabilization. And because I don't want it to do too much, I'm going to select preserve scale. Let's select just this portion of the timeline by pressing the /. Make sure we have loop playback enabled and just play it back. See what the stabilization did.
Everywhere. Foam pieces, they just kind of...
Oh, no. See that little jump that it did? That's worse than having the stabilization off. I can toggle it on and off by pressing this effects button in the corner. So this is without.
It just kind of got everywhere. Foam pieces, they just kind of got everywhere. Foam pieces, they just kind of...
And this is with.
Kind of got everywhere. Foam pieces, they just...
So maybe a different stabilization is in order. Instead of subspace, I'm going to do position, scale, rotation. And then let's see what it looks like.
Kind of got everywhere. Foam pieces, they just kind of got everywhere. Foam pieces,
That's great. So this type of stabilization is what I need. I'm going to add this to a couple of other clips. So I'm going to select the word warp stabilizer, Command C to copy it, and find some more clips that need stabilization. Like for example, this tennis ball clip. If I just play it the way that it is,
it was just taking way too long, and it was just taking way too.
But I add the warp stabilizer, Command V, and then I click Analyze. This is what it looks like.
Too long, and it was just taking way too long.
I'm sure you've noticed that some of these clips are a little too dark, so for our next step, let's adjust the color. And we're going to go over to Lumetri Color, or Window, and find Lumetri Color and open it up. Now, it's all grayed out until you actually select a clip. So the first clip that we want to adjust is probably this one because it's quite a bit darker than the clips prior. So once you select it, all of the Lumetri Color controls come into view. And just like on your phone or on Photoshop, you know these sliders very well. Exposure slider, right? Contrast, making the darks darker and the brights brighter. Highlights, making the lights brighter. Shadows, making the shadows brighter. Whites, and then we have blacks. Those are kind of our basic controls. If you want to go back to the original, you can click Reset. There's also an auto button, and if you click that, it does its best, but you can actually also add some of your own flavor from there. So for example, I'm going to increase exposure here, and I'm going to increase the shadows, maybe increase the saturation as well. I can toggle this on and off under Effect Controls. You can see that the Lumetri Color control has been added. So I can just press this Effects button to toggle it on and off. I think you're seeing a pattern here. Any effect or any part of the clip can be adjusted and toggled here in the Effect Controls window. So now that I know that this clip is good, I want to apply that same Lumetri Color to the next several clips, which are also dark. So I'm going to select the word Lumetri Color, Command C, and then paste it across the next several clips. 1, 2, and 3. That one might be a little too bright. Let's take the exposure down. What other clips need higher exposure? This one, definitely. So let's paste that same Lumetri Color. Even with that pasted, I feel like we still need more saturation. And under Creative, we can even give it some more vibrance. There we go. Maybe even back to basic and increase the shadows, increase the contrast a little bit. Yeah, I feel like that's a huge difference before and after. Select Lumetri Color, copy, because the next couple clips are under similar lighting. And this is one of those where now maybe it makes sense to go to Sequence and Selection follows Playhead. So every time I move the playhead, it selects the clip underneath it. Definitely this tennis ball shot can use a bit more exposure, but when I add it, it actually blows out the tennis ball. So let me take the highlights down and maybe the whites down so that the tennis ball still has some detail in it. This one is a little too stark white. I would like it to be a little warmer. So I'm going to adjust the temperature slider on that one so that the color of the paint matches. There we go. That one too could be a touch warmer. Okay, now let's take a look at our A-roll actually, because these two shots don't exactly match. So instead of going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, trying to adjust the color, we will scroll all the way down here to Color Wheels and Match, and we will open Comparison View. So Comparison View basically says, hey, the clip that I'm currently working on is the one on the right. The clip that I want to match to is the one on the left. So I have to choose which look I like better, the wide or the close-up. I think I like the wide better. So the close-up is the thing that I'm going to adjust. So because I have put my playhead over this clip and this is the clip that's selected, that's the clip that's being pulled up here in this side of the monitor. On this side is the clip that I want to match to. So I'm basically telling the program, hey, take this as an example and match this to that. I also want to make sure that I have face detection enabled because that'll help match the skin tones. And let's click Apply Match. That did a pretty good job. I will say maybe it has a little bit too much contrast. So let me take the contrast down and maybe just a tad bit more warmth and then tint it green just a smidge. But that looks pretty accurate. I'm happy with that. So if I toggle the Lumetri color in the effect controls panel on and off, you'll see the before and the after. The after matches with ACAM a lot better. So instead of taking this Lumetri color, copying it, and then trying to paste it to every instance of this magenta color, or zooming out on the entire project by doing that / key, and then trying to select all of the pink clips, there's a much quicker way to do it. We're just going to right click, go to label, select label group, then deselect the one that already has the Lumetri color. Otherwise, we're adding the Lumetri color effect twice by holding down Shift and deselecting it, and then doing Command V to paste. And now you can see that that color has been applied across to every single BCam clip. I'm going to get out of comparison view. The comparison view button's right here. Now let's say that I also want to add something to ACAM, like another Lumetri color effect for exposure. Increase the exposure here. Copy the Lumetri color, right click, label, select label group, deselect the one that I already added it to, and paste. And then now it doesn't match with the BCam anymore. So then I have to select all the BCam stuff, label, select label group, and then paste that there as well. So now it matches more or less. And then I came back to the project a few days later and I was like, oh, actually, I really don't like this change and I want to remove it. Well, if I click on one of the clips, I can access that Lumetri color and I can just delete it by pressing delete. But if I select multiple clips, what happens is that I don't see the effect controls anymore. And in the properties panel, there is no Lumetri color. This is just transform, crop, and audio. So what do? How do I delete that Lumetri color effect from multiple clips at the same time? Well, first I have to select those clips. So I'm going to right click, go to label, select label group, but it selected not only the ones on V1, but also on V3, because that's the same color up there too, right? So I'm going to lock V4, V3, and V2, and then right click, label, select label group. And then when I right click, I can go to remove attributes. And this will ask me, hey, which attribute would you like to remove? If I keep everything selected and I press OK, it'll remove everything, including my motion controls. Remember, this shot right here, it's like zoomed in to 80%. So if I press OK, it'll change the cropping. So I have to select just the Lumetri color. So I go to remove attributes. I don't want any of the motion or time remapping or anything. I just want you to get rid of the Lumetri color effect. There we go. Now let's say I came back, I looked at this on my phone, and I decided that the entire video needs to be brighter. Instead of selecting everything by going Command A and then pasting a Lumetri color effect to every single clip, I can do that globally using an adjustment layer, which is very similar to Photoshop actually. First, I have to create that adjustment layer. I'll put it in the graphics folder. I'm going to select the graphics folder, go to new item, and go to adjustment layer. I'm going to choose the properties of this adjustment layer, width, height, and time base, the same as we've been working on this whole time. Press OK. And now this adjustment layer is its own item inside our bins. I'm going to put it on a new track that is above all the other tracks. So I'm just going to drag it in. And by default, it is just a few frames wide because I have that set as a default in my settings. If I wanted to change it before I made that adjustment layer, I could have gone to Edit, Preferences, and then Timeline. And then here I can set a minimum still image default duration. So right now it's 4 frames. Let's actually make it 4 seconds. And my audio transition default duration is 2 frames, which is great because we'll be using that later. I'm going to press OK and then create that adjustment layer again. Same thing, but now when I drag it in, it's a lot longer. So I can extend it to be the entire width of the video, and then I can place a Lumetri color effect on that adjustment layer, and then everything underneath it will be affected by it. So I could increase the exposure just a little bit across the whole thing, and that way all the B-roll, all the A-roll, and everything will have a higher exposure. We're almost done. We've done most of this before, actually. It's just a review. Remember last time when we were creating little transitions by dragging these fade handles across like so, then copying it, zooming out, holding down Command, selecting all of the transitions and pasting so that that little fade transition would apply across all the clips? Well, here we're going to do the same thing, except we're just going to apply the default transition. Here under the timeline where we just were, it says that our audio transition default duration is 2 frames, which is exactly what we need. So we know how long our default transition is. We just need to know what our default transition is. So here under Effects, in Audio Transitions, Crossfade, this little blue circle shows us that the constant power transition is our default transition. How do we know that? Well, we could right click, set as default transition. If we wanted constant gain, we could set that as default transition. Exponential fade, we could set that. I wouldn't worry about the differences between these for now. Let's just say constant power is our default transition. So if we select the area between 2 of the audio clips and we just do Shift D, that automatically adds that default transition without us having to drag those handles. So if we wanted to just automatically add the default transition to everything, we press Command, select all of the transitions, then Shift D adds that 2-frame default fade transition to everything. I'll prove it. I'll just zoom in right here. The other thing we can do is clean up the audio a little bit. So let's select all of the audio clips on A1, go to Essential Sound, and we can do Enhance Speech, but I want to show you a couple of the other things here in this menu. For example, we can reduce noise, we can reduce rumble. And of course, we're going to do the same thing as we did before. For loudness, we're going to click Auto Match so that each clip matches its loudness. And for Enhance Speech, we're going to press Enhance, but we're going to turn the mix amount down so that it doesn't sound as robotic. I know my voice can sometimes go pretty low, and it sounds like a little frog that croaks. The Essential Sound panel not only has music, but it also has sound effects, and so many of them are free. You can see there's over 15,000 sound effects, and when I filter it by what's free, over 11,000. So let's get a short sound effect, and I want like a little chime or something interesting for that before and after shot here at the beginning. So I'm going to do the same thing, make sure timeline sync is on, go to categories, and I don't know, sound design, boom impact. Let's listen. Like right here.
This.
No.
This. This. This.
I kind of like that. So I will, in the audio folder, I'm going to make a subfolder called sound effects, and then I'm going to put this sound effect in the sound effects folder. There it is. And then drag it right here to where my my new clip starts. Let's listen.
To this.
Oh, that is loud. Let's drag the volume line down a little bit.
To this. In my last video, that was more of a vlog.
Let's add some graphics. I've duplicated the sequence, I've called it graphics, and now I'm going to open the graphics templates window. Here it is. Let's put it up here. And Adobe Stock has a lot of graphics templates, and again, you can filter them by free or premium. So in this case, let's filter by free, and let's type in lower third. That is what we call a template for one's name at the bottom of the screen. You can hover scrub through it to kind of get an idea of what it looks like. Quite nice. Let's keep going. I think this pop-up lower third works really well. So at the very beginning, I don't even say my name. So I'm going to have to write it on the screen. I'm going to drag that lower third into V6, which doesn't exist yet, but once I drag it, it will. And it's loading the template. And there we go.
Welcome to my living room. I want to show you how
Great. Now that the template is in there, I can just click directly into it. And in the properties panel, I can change what it says. So Valentina Vee, second line, filmmaker. And then I want to change the font too. Let's do one of my favorite fonts. Ooh. Maybe all caps. And maybe smaller. With a little bit more spacing in between. Nice. Let's see what that looks like.
Welcome to my living room. I want to show you.
I'm actually going to get rid of that second line by disabling this I. And then the whole thing I'm going to move down by doing a global position control. Kind of like this, because I still want to leave room for subtitles. Now, this graphic has both an intro animation and an outro animation. So if I play it, this is what it looks like by default.
Welcome to my living room. I want to show you how I took it from looking like this to this.
You see that? So I have to make it shorter, but if I physically make it shorter like this, then the outro animation remains, and I think it's quite distracting.
Welcome to my living room. I want to show you how I took it from looking like this.
See that? So instead of making the clip shorter, I'm just going to cut the clip right there. So I just eliminate the outro animation. So both the lower third and me go away when I cut to the B-roll clip.
I took it from looking like this to this. In my last video, that was more of a vlog.
Let's add captions. And because we already have the transcript, adding captions will be a breeze. It's the same exact window as before. So the text window, and you can see we're on the transcript tab and we have the whole transcript here. But if we wanted to create captions, we just have to go to the caption tab and select create captions from transcript. It'll ask us what are our preferences for these captions. Personally, I like to do single line captions, and I want their minimum duration to be maybe 2 seconds. Because I want them to not anticipate the next thing I'm saying too quickly. I want the maximum length in characters to be, well, let's do 40. Right now, we don't have a style set and the format is subtitle. So with this information, we're going to click Create Captions. And there we go. All the captions are now on their own little track up here called the subtitle track. So these captions are what's called burned in because they're on the video. It's not like you add them as an option later inside a video player. We can adjust them though, because this is the default look and color. So to adjust them, just click on any single one of them and that pops up their properties in the properties panel. You can add your favorite font. You can adjust the font size, although I kind of like the font size, the font color. So in this case, for the font color, I'm actually going to pick my skin color. For the shadow, I'm actually not going to have a shadow, but I would like a background. I'd like that background to be black and maybe have a little bit of corner, have a little bit more padding, something like that. Thus far, I've only adjusted this one singular caption, right? All of the other ones are the same. So in order to push that look to the other captions, all I have to do is here under track style, press this button. And this is going to redefine the style of all the captions in the track to match this one. They are still a little bit too far. They're a little bit too low. So I'm going to just select all of the captions and then use this align and transform control to move it up a little bit. Maybe the opacity of our background could be a little bit less. All right, now if you wanted to save this caption style and use it in the future, you could. You just go over here to track style, to the plus button, create style. For example, you're gonna call it like soft captions because the color's soft, the shape is soft. You could save to project and save to your local styles. You can see it put the soft captions caption file just in the regular folder. So let's move that to our graphics folder. Now we have these captions in English, but let's say that we wanted to translate them to another language for another video that we're making. So we can go over here to this 3-dot button and go to translate captions. It auto detected that English is the language that we're working with, but our target language, let's just say it is, just for accuracy, let's go to another language that I speak, Spanish. Style, soft captions. Advanced preferences, we can do the same thing, right? Minimum duration in seconds, maximum length in characters is 40, single line, and translate. You can see it will add another line of subtitles above our current subtitles. And then we can either hide or unhide them to see what language it is. So for example, I can hide the English titles and I can turn on the Spanish ones. I had to figure out a way to trim that. And a friend of mine, he said, well, why don't you just use your jigsaw? I'm like, that's a great idea. Now that we have 3 tracks of video, an adjustment layer, a graphics layer, we also have 2 subtitle layers. It's getting to be a pretty hefty project and it's not playing back as smooth as it was before. What helps is to be able to render the project. I think of rendering as almost like preheating the oven. So it's easier to play back a clip if it's rendered first. And I'm sure you've noticed here above the timeline, we have a yellow line. That means this footage is likely to play back fine for you, but it might stall. If the line is red, then that's really difficult to play the footage back on your computer. You can always obviously drop down to like quarter resolution to play it back, but if you want to play it back at full resolution and your computer is not letting you, I would render first. You can either render the entire video or you can render a section of a video. For example, if I wanted to just render this jigsaw section over here, I can put my playhead where I need it, put I for in, O for out, so I've designated that this is the section that I want to render. Go over here to sequence, render into out, and it takes a few seconds, but you can already see that that line is turning green, which means smooth playback. I recommend rendering the entire video before you export it. You can also change the subtitles after you've created them. You don't have to go all the way back to the transcript level. For example, over here, it actually skipped a word. He said, well, why don't you just use your jigsaw? I'm like, that's a great idea. I said, I'm like, that's a great idea. So I'm going to add a question mark. I'm like, and then because this was a quote, that's a great idea. So I will go through this and clean up all of the captions so that they are accurate, and then we will export. Before we go ahead and export and watch this, let's say you wanted a version for social media, a vertical version. How would you do that? You might right-click, reveal sequence and project, then duplicate this sequence, then do 09 social, open that up, and then go ahead and change the sequence settings. So up here in sequence settings, instead of 1920 by 1080, flip that around to 1080 by 1920. Press OK. And then see what happens. Oh, well, it just changed the sequence settings, but it didn't adjust the clips. Some of them might work, some of them don't. Sometimes I'm centered, sometimes I'm not. But regardless, all of these clips have to be reframed, right? So you would go to the first one, let's say ACAM, and here under properties, you would scale it up, right? And what is that line right here? That is our adjustment layer. So you would scale up the entire adjustment layer as well. And then every single one of the B-roll clips, you would also have to reframe, resize. Takes a long time. So instead of doing all of that, there's an automatic way to do so. So I'm going to delete this entire 09 social. Delete. Go back to the latest version, which is 08 graphics. And instead, I'm going to go to sequence, auto reframe sequence. And here I can name it something. So I'm going to name it 09 social. Target aspect ratio, vertical, 9:16. And then motion tracking, this is telling the software, do you have a lot of very fast motion in this that it should be aware of for reframing purposes? Or do you have slower motion, or should you do default? So I'll just do default. And then for clip nesting, this is like that Russian nesting doll thing where you have sequences inside sequences. I'm just going to say don't nest clips. Okay. And then I'm going to click create. Now, normally you would also do a shorter version for social, right? You would do like a 1 minute version of this, but just for argument's sake, I want to show you how quickly this accomplished it. So you can see here, it actually auto reframed everything so that the central action is happening in the center. Remember here, if I reveal in project, I was actually in this portion of the clip, I was to the right side of the clip, but it auto reframed me in the middle. Sometimes it doesn't get it perfectly right. Like in this example, it focused on my face, but I really want it to focus on the actual nailing of the nails. So I'm going to select that clip, go to auto reframe, and then adjust the offset of the auto reframe by dragging this X value to the left. There we go, because I want to focus on the hammering. Okay, are you ready to export? We will go to File, Export, Media, or Control M. We'll find the destination, so it should be in the Exports folder on our drive. Make sure that the preset here is high quality 1080p HD, and let's name it 2025 0501 underscore molding underscore subs, because we're adding subtitles, underscore horizontal. What's important here also is here under captions, you make sure that this caption checkbox is enabled, because if it isn't, then you won't have the captions track. And then your export option are either burn captions into video or create sidecar files. So this is a file that you can upload to like the back end of YouTube. But in this case, we want to burn the captions into the video, entire source, and click export. Congratulations, we're at the end of the tutorial. I'm about to play the final video for you. Don't forget that there are resources in the description, including a PDF booklet that I wrote that has a lot of this information in very easy to read terms. Thank you so much for trusting me with your Premiere Pro education, and I hope you learned something new. Once again, if you want to connect with me, here are my social media profiles, and let's not waste any more time. Let's watch the last video. Welcome to my living room. I want to show you how I took it from looking like this to this. In my last video, that was more of a vlog, I showed you how I did the track lighting in the ceiling. But as much as I love light strips, I don't love looking at them. I like the effect they make. You can see here on the curtains, it just highlights those folds and makes it really lush and cinematic. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about my crown molding
balance project. Usually people put LED light strips that face the ceiling and they put their molding on the wall, and I decided to put my molding on the ceiling and put the LED light strips pointed down the wall. First, I found crown molding that was actually made of styrofoam, which was great because I knew that I would have to be putting it on the ceiling. I just didn't want to overload the ceiling with too much weight because there's already curtain tracks on it. This crown molding came in giant 8-foot strips, and the corners were already mitered, meaning they were already at 45 degrees. So using a hacksaw, I cut each piece into 2, so I would have 8 halves, so I could put together the corners first. And then I noticed that I didn't really have a good point of contact. This crown molding is meant to go on the wall and on the ceiling, so it has 3 attachment points to where it goes on the wall and 1 attachment point to where it goes on the ceiling. Well, because I was only using the ceiling, that is not enough surface area for me. So I had to figure out a way to trim that. And a friend of mine, he said, well, why don't you just use your jigsaw? I'm like, that's a great idea. So we figured out a way to move the crown molding against the jigsaw to get these perfect cuts so that I had more surface area on the top of the crown molding so that I could adhere it to the ceiling. How do I adhere it to the ceiling? I tried to do it in my garage with a couple of scraps. The first thing I tried was a glue that's specific for styrofoam, and it actually really sucked. It didn't work at all. So then I tried caulk, just regular caulk, and it worked okay, but I thought, okay, I could reinforce it with a nail gun. Well, the nail gun didn't work at all. It's a lot easier to paint crown molding on the ground than to paint it on the ceiling. So before mounting each piece, I actually went ahead and painted it. One thing about the painting was that because there were so many styrofoam pieces, they just kind of got everywhere. So before painting a piece, I would take a rag and just sort of swat off the styrofoam to make sure that none of it got caught in the paint. The first piece went over my front door, and I tried to do it with only caulk, just like the manufacturer said to do, except it kept falling. So I took 2 C-stands to hoist it up there and hold it up there. Well, they actually created dents in the molding. So for the second piece, I decided to put tennis balls on the end of the stands and hold it up that way. It was just taking way too long, and I was racking my brain and thinking, oh my god, is it going to take me like 8 days just to put these corners up? And then I realized nails exist, just regular finishing nails. So even though it was tedious, I nailed each piece in. And of course, where the joints meet, I added extra caulk and I tried to smooth it out as much as I could. As I kept going, I kept getting better. After I glued all of the corners and reinforced it with nails, it was time to figure out how to do the middles. And instead of measuring, I actually just held up other pieces of the styrofoam and I marked where to cut with a pencil. I took my hacksaw and I cut off those ends, obviously painted them, stuck them on, nailed them in, and tried to caulk the seams as best as I could. The white caulk needed to be painted, and of course, it was 3 coats of paint, but I got it done. And now I get to relax in my beautiful living room. I also did a few other things like swapped out some curtains, swapped out the rug, added a mirror, and I'm waiting on the last piece, which are these beautiful dark wood bookshelves that are gonna go floor to ceiling along this wall over here. They're just gonna come in 2 to 4 months. Thanks for watching. I hope this inspired you to do your own DIY project. Until next time, bye.